Hello and welcome to another episode of the show. I am joined today by Kieran and Smiffy from the Jabbin with Jimmy Savile podcast. Is that what you guys call yourself?
Kieran and Scott, whoever Scott is. I don't know.
I think we could do some jabbing of Jimmy Savile if you want. We could do that.
Can we not
I think that would
Just do a wee breakdown of his techniques and
I think that's a better name. Jabbin Jimmy Savile.
Jimmy Savile jabbing.
Yeah, like verbally and with fists if he was alive.
Is that not what Louis Theroux was doing? I've not seen that yet, but
Yeah.
he was pretty much jabbing it, Jimmy.
It was. Have you seen that? The I think there's 2 episodes of Louis Theroux's show, and he goes back and sort of goes over what happened in the first one. But yeah, this is so weird, especially in hindsight. It's just a very creepy episode to watch.
I like the follow-up episode he did where he spoke about how he kind of acknowledges that he was a bit hoodwinked by, I think that's the word he actually uses, by Jimmy Savile, and how he kind of identifies that's kind of what he did to everyone. He even does a meeting, a section in that documentary with a woman who was Jimmy Savile's kind of minder for a lot of years.
Oh yeah.
And at one point, this is a woman who'd been in Jimmy Savile's life for 20 years or something, like a major, a daily part. Then one day he was just like, I'm done with her. And that was it, and that was her done. Never saw from him again until.
And she totally believed that he never did anything as well. So imagine being fired like that on the turn of a heel like that. That's and then just thinking that he was still God's gift.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've already got into the paedophile stuff straight away.
What is it with us three?
Don't say that. People will be thinking that we're just have our own sex ring on the way.
Well, demographically.
What, you mean white male?
I'm just glad you weren't recording earlier. More to save you, Scott.
Oh, sure.
So I haven't had a chance to actually talk about this on the show, but the UFC229. This is one I really wanted to get into because on the show. So it was Conor versus Khabib. Eventually, we got to that. Some great fights on the card.
Oh yeah.
Leading up to that, like just all time. It's the Tony Ferguson and Pettis fight was just an all time great fight.
Amazing to watch. I mean that. It seemed like we got Prime Pettis and Prime Ferguson in the same cage at the same time.
Exactly.
Which was incredible. I'm amazed that Tony made it to the cage.
I'm surprised Pettis made it to the cage as well.
Too right, man.
But no, it was incredible. It was.
Yeah.
And I think there's an amazing photo that was captured of Pettis mounted or inside Tony's guard, sticking his tongue out. Amazing.
It was a strange one because I was watching it with my girlfriend's parents in Toronto. So this is the first time they'd watched a whole event, even a whole UFC fight.
What an introduction.
So when we got to this sort of co-main event, it was just like I was looking out the corner of my eyes just to see if they were like squinting at it. But I told them like the blood doesn't really mean anything. It's like when your heart's beating and your blood's pumping around, it doesn't mean anything when you get a cut. Like the blood's not reflective of how much pain you're in.
Plus the sweat as well.
Yeah, it makes it look more horrendous. But they enjoyed it.
Yeah, good. What's funny about that is you watching that with Laura's parents who have never watched a complete fight before. Do you think that they saw the aftermath and thought, oh well, that's what I expected to happen. That's the sort of thing that happens at cage fighting.
You mean from the Conor fight? Yeah. Well, that was tough because I did have to explain that this wasn't normal, and it's probably only happened in MMA once in the last 15 years, and that was the Strikeforce one.
All kind of like the Elite XC. Don't be scared, homie. That whole.
Yeah. So that was it. That was not Strikeforce. That's what I meant.
Well, no. There was a Strikeforce one as well.
Yeah, the Strikeforce brawl. Yeah, Nashville brawl. Yeah.
Nashville. So like Watergate for MMA.
But you're right. It's weird that the Diaz brothers weren't involved.
I thought they would have been in all brawls.
What's really frustrating about that is the card itself was amazing. There was loads of good fights, and I'm super into MMA. See, off the top of my head, I can't think of many of the fights because the Conor Khabib fight and brawl is overridden everything in my memory.
I'm kind of just thinking on the spot there, but do you think if that the Pettis and Tony Ferguson fight had been the main event, that it would have been sort of praised more? Like it would have been just an all-time fantastic fight.
100%.
There's people that love MMA and know how good that fight was, but if it wasn't the casual fan that was there to see Conor, that would have been just the icing on the cake. The Pettis and Tony Ferguson fight.
Well, I'm kind of inclined to disagree because what I tend to find
You're not a contrarian, are you?
No comment. What do you think about it? No, it's like the difference between a stacked card and like most other cards. I mean, that the reason that card was so good was because it was stacked, because there were a lot of really good fights on that card. I think that's the reason why it's been so received critically so well. I think there's lots of events where the only kind of name fight is the main event, and a lot of people will only watch the main event. I think this did better for everyone's engagement in MMA to have a fight like that as the co-main event, and then have the big money, well, not the big money, the kind of big, I guess the big money fight at the end, you know. I think I'd like to see more cards. I'd like to see, I think we spoke about this last time all three of us were together. I'd like to see less cards of that quality.
Yeah.
Not to say that the UFC Moncton card isn't looking fucking awesome.
That does actually look decent.
I know,
I was surprised at how good it looks.
Card.
So when you were going into this fight in Conor versus Khabib, what were your sort of respective ideas of what was going to happen?
So
before, obviously,
I've publicly said one thing and then privately said another. Just to hedge my bets. So my friend Dean, I'm wearing his t-shirt just now. My friend Dean, we
been
had
on the show before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
good guy, Dean. I think
we had a side bet going. He wanted to put 50 quid on Conor. I said, right, 50 quid on Khabib. I think Khabib will take it.
Right.
But then the closer the fight got, I started to look at other fights, and I thought, if I break this down technique-wise and try to figure out who would win, looking at how they've fought in their last couple of fights, I would probably go with Conor.
Yeah.
So on the night or the morning, I guess it was night for you.
Yeah, I got to watch it at a respectable hour, which is unbelievable.
I didn't. 7 in the morning.
Yeah, I slept and then got up and watched that fight, and then I couldn't get to sleep again. Me and you were talking the whole time. I couldn't get to sleep again, so I just watched the rest of the card. The closer it got to the fight, the closer I was leaning towards Conor.
Yeah.
But I did also have 50 quid on the other side, so, you know.
You're sitting on the fence.
I was sitting on the fence. I got some splinters, but I also got 50 quid, so.
Not bad.
What about you?
It kind of broadly went how I thought it would go.
Did you put it down on paper?
No, but I told enough people. Enough people like at work asked me how I thought it was going to go. The way I said, and it's kind of what John Kavanagh said on Joe Rogan. Every round starts on the feet, so Conor has his chance to win at the start of every round. But once he's down, especially in the first 3, that's him down. And Khabib's one of the best at taking guys back down, or just not staying on them basically the whole round. So I basically said, once Conor's down, he's down. Yeah. Some of the takedown defense in the first round was amazing. Yeah. I've never seen someone's leg move that way.
I think people were surprised at Conor's defense.
Like his heel was on his chin at one point.
And he was calm. You know, he wasn't stressed. He knows he was going to be in this position for at least the first 2 rounds.
Exactly.
And he just was working and was staying up, keeping his hips up above the ground as well. But it's just the Khabib he'll just overrun you. You know, on the ground.
To win.
Yeah.
And it was really weird. A lot of people were saying leading up to the fight, Khabib doesn't really have the submission skills to. It's like, he fucking does. he definitely does. Like a lot of his, it's not like he just grinds guys down and takes the submissions. It's very kind of Matt Hughes kind of. It reminds me of Matt Hughes anyway. So yeah, I broadly went how I thought it was going to go, but I was open to the it could be another Jose Aldo fight. Yeah, you know.
I think my predictions beforehand were on my podcast that I do infrequently, MMA High Five.
Oh,
little plug there. You can find it on anywhere you get your podcasts.
Do you want to pick up that name you're dropping on the ground there?
With the number 5. So there you go. But on that, I thought I'd do a little special one talking about my thoughts on the fight. I sent that to Scott. My thoughts were predominantly that Conor's better at keeping that range that he needs to fight at than Khabib is at closing that. Yeah. We typically beforehand didn't see Khabib shoot from far out against a lot of people. No. And Conor's strength is in his range management. Exactly. And using his legs and his longer punches to keep people at that range. So I sent that to Scott, and Scott had said, I can't argue with any of your points, I just disagree. Which is, where we came down to. But I think
for me, leading up to it, it was a case of my mind and my heart at play here. And on one hand, my mind was saying it's Khabib. Khabib's going to win all night long. If it goes the full 5 rounds, Conor's in for an extremely long night. But my heart, I was just like, I want something, an upset to happen, not because it was Conor necessarily, just because in my mind, in my heart, I was like, I just want the upset to happen. But one of the things that struck me as odd is I kind of changed my whole feeling about the fight as soon as I saw Conor walking out. I don't know why. I could just see in his eye that he wasn't as sure as he was, and what he was doing was peacocking, but in his mind he was scared. Usually when he was peacocking before a fight, he truly believed that he was going in there and he's the greatest ever. But this one, it just seemed like it was sort of like a show, and he wasn't really there for it.
Well, something I did put on paper was during the press conference, where Conor was meh.
Yeah.
I said, I posted on Facebook saying Conor's lost it. Either that or he was drunk or both. But I genuinely think this is the first time the spectacle was bigger than Conor. Yeah. Which is weird because globally this wasn't as big of an event. I mean, I think a lot of people became aware of the fight the day of the fight, if you know what I mean. Whereas the Mayweather-McGregor, that was weeks and weeks and weeks of hype. Yeah.
With no press leading up to it, it's hard to sort of give it that oomph that it needed.
Plus you've got Conor trying to do the talking for both parts, because Khabib didn't really do any talking. It's just not his thing.
How did you take that conference?
The conference with
Conor and Khabib, the one just leading up to the one with there was no
the whiskey.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious. First off, I thought Conor crossed the line a couple of times. There's been a few occasions where Conor has said some things that could be construed as racist or sexist or homophobic. He never crosses the line, but he says things that make you think maybe that's what he's thinking. The comments he made about Khabib and about his religion and his family, I thought they maybe crossed the line a little bit. But at the same time, in general circumstances, that would have been entertaining. It would have been fun. It would have been part of the spectacle. And like he apparently said in the cage, it's just business.
I've seen a breakdown of that though, and he didn't say that supposedly.
Well, it doesn't matter if he said that or not.
And the whole wrestle thing, like him Khabib coming back with something, supposedly it's not that.
Really?
There's a guy I watch on YouTube. It's something. He's like a sort of chameleon guy. He does it through animation, but he brings down the psychology of fighters. I can't remember his name. I have to get it because he's fantastic. But he breaks it down and plays it back, and then has a different narrative for that. It's like I'll link you in it anyway.
That's interesting. But I guess the point I was making was, against most people, that's just talking. It's just business, and afterwards you say, well done, fair enough. That's us. But it's a bit different when you're saying things like that to someone like Khabib, who genuinely has ties to a terrorist dictator, who genuinely has ties to guys who kill for a living, who have been involved in wars for all of their life,
and has wrestled a bear.
Literally has wrestled a bear.
Was there not a band called that? I wrestled a bear once.
Yeah, they're not too bad.
They were okay.
Female front.
Yes. They've actually formed a new band. I'll send you guys later. They're actually really good.
I got there first.
Is it Khabib on lead vocals?
Number one bullshit.
But they are really good. But yeah,
I smell bear shit.
Crossed the line a little bit. That's probably what made it more entertaining, and the whole going after Ali afterwards as well. I loved that.
So, I'm going to preface this by pointing out I thought it was funny when Chael Sonnen did it. Right, when Chael Sonnen did the bit about
Brazilians
feeding
the bus with a carrot
to the bus.
That was hilarious.
I thought that was funny, and a lot of people did. But I think Conor's behaviour in that press conference was, to me, my opinion, was way beyond the pale. When he started, the one statement I would focus on would be he said he's spoken to Artem and he says all Dagestanis have weak chins. That's beyond that's beyond what you, because that's tantamount. That's like speaking about an ethnic group, right? I think that's too far as far as fight promotion is concerned. You can call your opponent all the names under the sun. In most situations I'm kind of okay with that. Yeah. But when you start bringing someone's religion into it, start bringing someone's culture into it, calling them backwards and stuff like that, like that's just, to me, beyond promoting a fight. That's stirring up anger towards the fans. I mean, the only reason I think fans, because there was it Dylan Dennis went out after the fight all by himself and stuff like that. And it's like all these, one thing they said in commentary, there'll be a lot of fights in Vegas tonight. Mm-hmm. A big part of that was because of the stuff Conor was saying. Yeah. Also offering, everyone knows Muslims don't drink. Yeah. Don't offer Khabib a fucking whiskey.
I found that pretty strange that the whole promotion was sponsored by Conor's whiskey.
Yeah.
And he's in a cage fighting a guy who is like deeply against that as part of his religion. So yeah, you kind of feel like, as if you were Khabib, like the odds are kind of trying to be stacked against you.
You could tell it was getting to him. I mean, to be fair, he's obviously cutting weight at this point.
I thought it got to him.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were like, oh, he stonewalled him. I was like, no, there was a little chink in there.
But there was a lot of, like, you could tell it was starting to bother Khabib. I mean, there was a part where a guy said, Conor, congratulations on your whiskey and cross promotion and stuff. Then he turned to Khabib and I can never remember what it
said. Salam something.
Or something. And then Khabib said, you can't say congratulations for whiskey and then Allah in the same sentence. Just you're right in that respect. But I just feel Conor went beyond what he should do. I was like half expecting Dana, but I wasn't expecting Dana to be like Conor. Conor, fucking, because like that could have negative because extremist, religious fanatics, that could have been a whole thing.
I think one of the things I've been sort of mulling over in my mind is that the UFC kind of maybe wanted this to happen in a sense because Conor had them over a barrel at one point. He could literally have done anything 2 years ago, and they would have had to accommodate it. And that's why they've been pushing so many of these young fighters so quickly. Is because they're trying to find a star in the wake of McGregor, and he left this vacuum, and there is no one really that's going to follow it. They've kind of done it with Darren Till, but he just couldn't finish it off in the end. He wasn't that good.
Well, wasn't ready to be.
Oh, of course, yeah. No, he was pushed far too quickly into this.
Definitely.
There's only a rare breed of person that can, do that with their body and with their mouth and get in there and do and that was Conor. Up until a certain point. So I think that's the UFC's been trying to find and trying to shift that power for themselves because it feels like Conor just had them by the scruff of the neck.
A big thing that Dana's always said, and I think the Fertittas had said before, but not as much as Dana because he's bigger mouth, is they want to promote the UFC brand. They don't want to promote individual fighters. And Dana said multiple times, no fighter is bigger than the UFC, which is obviously not true. Brock Lesnar is bigger than the UFC.
Physical, like literally bigger than the UFC.
Absolute unit. But their point is that we promote the UFC as a brand, an all-encompassing brand, and they want to be seen like the NHL, the NFL, NBA, whatever. So, like you say, they are trying to redress the balance and make sure Conor realizes that no one is bigger than the brand. Which I think's probably hurt them more than anything.
Right.
In terms of promoting fights. I mean, that's one of the reasons, totally going off topic straight away, that's one of the reasons DJ isn't as big a pool as he should be.
Yeah.
Because they promote UFC rather than promoting the fighters.
Yeah.
And I think they were hoping that something happened.
And especially if you feel like they're being selective about it as well. It feels certainly that they are pushing some more when they're not supposed to be as well.
It's the sizzle and the steak, isn't it? It's the sell and the sizzle, not the steak. Like DJs, I mean, don't know.
Not heard that in a while.
I know. It came to me the other day. I was thinking about this. It came to me the other day.
Were you just sitting there and you're like, no one ever says sizzle and steak anymore. Were you eating a steak?
No, I wasn't. Sorry. But like, I'm not to say that Conor McGregor's fights are in any way boring, because they're really not. I mean, the Max Holloway fight wasn't the most entertaining, but he blew out his knee early on.
I thought it was brilliant just to see him shut down Max, even though he had his. Exactly. But as an MMA fan, that is a good fight. But as a general, I guess maybe it wasn't as what people thought or wanted.
Exactly. But DJ's fights are technically, I mean, maybe not to the casual fan because there aren't knockouts, but I mean, just to see people moving at that speed and just his reaction times and like. When I watch DJ fights, especially since I got Fight Pass, if you watch like the metrics of me watching those fights, I must watch a 25-minute fight for an hour because I'm constantly going back. What the fuck? Like how did he turn? It's like watching FIFA. It's
Yeah.
like you didn't know the ball was there. It's that kind of a thing. It's
Yeah.
like you weren't even looking.
No, he's fantastic.
It's uncanny.
But the one I like to watch over and over again was the one that I didn't even know it had existed until like a couple of years ago. Was when he fought Dominic Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great fight.
135.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's his only loss, isn't it? Well,
th-
his
yeah.
second, his first loss.
I
sorry.
think it was the turning point in
No,
his
third
career
loss. He
for
lost
him
to
as
Miguel
well.
Torres as well. Did he not?
No, I think is he not 2 losses?
I think he is
He's
too.
three now. He's three.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he lost to Miguel.
No, I think you're right. I think he lost to Torres in the WEC.
Yeah, he lost to Torres.
He lost to Dominic Cruz, and then he lost to obviously Henry Cejudo. Sorry.
Yeah, and yeah, that was a great fight.
Mm.
I didn't know that I'd taken part because it was just so went under the radar for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's I love watching Dominic Cruz fight. I love watching DJ fight. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is a really good fight.
I wish in the height of DJ's sort of fame up until his last fight, I think it would have been great to see him rematch against Dominic, or even to go for TJ, because that would have been a fantastic fight.
Yeah.
Do you, in hindsight, who do you think would have got that now? Now that we've seen DJ losing, do you think he would have beat TJ Dillashaw if he came down to fight him?
It was a split. It was a split decision loss. First of all, I would say. So I mean, there's only so much of a loss you would say.
But he got shut down.
I've only watched that fight once, so I
Okay.
need to watch it again to kind of get a proper kind of feel for it. But it was to me watching it the first time, I feel like it was merited a rematch. TJ versus DJ, I just feel TJ's bigger.
Yeah.
I feel like they would both land on each other probably the same amount, but TJ's shots would land harder, and that would become the.
I think that'd be the big difference, and it would take its toll on DJ. And TJ's got the power to knock him out, you know, with anything really. So
I would probably take TJ Dillashaw as well, but more because I feel like I think they would land probably the same amount. That's what you were saying, but I think TJ's would look more significant.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a split decision for TJ, which is, I mean, kind of similar to what happened with Cejudo. With Cejudo winning that fight, I thought he was going to win it just because the old idea of to beat the champion, you've got to really beat him.
yeah,
I don't think he did that. But I think the judging arguably has gotten better for things like that,
yeah.
where they're looking at each round individually rather than has he actually beaten him over the course of the fight sort of thing. So I think the judging was probably right for me for that fight. And I think it would probably go the same way with TJ. Yeah. But I wouldn't write DJ off. I wouldn't put 50 quid on TJ.
But he might be just at that time now where he's declining. You know, he's fought for 10 years at least. That is just that bracket of time, regardless of how old you are, that you can fight for. And no matter how hard you're trying and how you change up your training, there's nothing that's going to change. You're just slowing down, and you're getting towards the end of your career.
And I mean, Matt Hume fought in Asia a lot of his career, so you know, there's a knowledge of how that market works as well.
And I guess with one of the big things in the MMA world, the news was the first trade between is it ONE FC and the UFC. So DJ went to ONE, and I think was it Ben Askren came to the UFC, which is unprecedented. Like we've never had this happen before in an MMA promotion as big as the UFC.
Does Rich Franklin not run ONE FC at the moment? Or is he the matchmaker? He's got some sort of stake in the management there.
I think he is, but Matt Hume also works for ONE FC.
I didn't know.
So what's the preface of doing this sort of trade? It's not obviously not permanent. Is it sort of
No, I think it's permanent.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think the idea was it's a good value swap. The UFC have said multiple times they don't see value in the flyweight division at all. It doesn't draw. You'll get title eliminators on the Fight Pass prelims. Insane.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, Ben Askren was retired because he can't get access to the best fights in the world.
Because famously, Dana White said he didn't want Askren in the UFC, but just because of his style,
So boring,
and he was a bit mouthy as well with Dana. But I think everyone's behind him coming over because it's so exciting to see someone. Because there's people that are in the business that have slightly hyped it in a good way. Obviously, Joe Rogan's one of them. He wants to see someone just with his type of style going to the UFC and dominate everyone, because no one will have an answer for it.
Well, no, maybe not. not the high level. Some of the high level guys, I think, would like your. I don't think he would fight Tyrone Woodley. I think they train together.
Yeah, he says he would never fight Tyrone.
Both train at Rufus.
Which is a shame because I think Tyrone Woodley would beat him.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the only person that would beat him?
See, I was thinking about this before. We were talking about Khabib's strength and what he's really good at.
Yeah.
Ben Askren's also really good at, except for Khabib is far more hittable.
Yeah.
Khabib gets hit far more. Ben Askren doesn't get hit. Like you watch the fights and you think his stand-up is terrible. How's he not getting hit? But he doesn't get hit. He takes no damage.
I don't think I've seen him squarely being punched ever in any of his fights.
He would take a fight every month.
No,
let's do it.
I've definitely seen one Ben Askren fight where he wasn't the dominant party, and that's his no contest. I can't remember the name of the guy because he fought him again, and then there was a weird thing. The guy was
the Brazilian dude.
The Brazilian,
yeah.
And the guy was like for the rematch. The guy was trying to avoid the fight.
Okay,
like, he was like it was the way like he was in the cafeteria before weigh-ins, like stuffing his face, and Ben Askren's like, I'm not fighting you. I actually don't think they fought again, maybe, but the no contest ended because of an eye poke. But I remember, if I remember correctly, Askren getting like uchimated or something, like proper like hip throwed.
Yeah.
So he's most fights like Ben Askren's he's pretty dominant, but it's not always the case. I need to watch that fight again.
Yeah.
It was one FC as well. But yeah, that was. So yeah, he's not the.
But could it be the same situation that happened with Fedor? Like all these years, he's been fighting in these side promotions and making a name for himself. And then if he'd went to the UFC, would he have fared well against that sort of level of competition? Because it is a step up.
It is indeed. And a different ring to a cage, ring to an octagon.
Yeah.
There's another there's a third factor to this. I don't know if I mentioned this in the podcast before, but it's one thing I've noticed. If you look at Fedor, Krokop's record, Kevin Randleman's, and the guys that were successful, semi-successful in Pride, almost all those fights were at the Satayama Super Arena or the Tokyo Dome, one of the two. To me, it feels like, also in football, rugby, those kind of sports, you have like a home field advantage. How much do you think that factored in to like that, like why Fedor and all those guys were so consistent in fight?
Right. Okay.
Like I know, obviously, fighting lower tier opponents could be an argument fighting cans, and that was a thing. But how much do you guys think that was a factor?
It probably had a part of it, to be honest. You know, to go somewhere that you're familiar with every week or every time that you fight. I mean, that must have some sort of some part of it.
Krokop did say that he loved being in Japan. Krokop loved it, but I guess if you're a huge guy like that, you probably would love it. Yeah, it's probably a lot to like if you're a massive.
Well, that's why the absolute freak of the world is still over there. What's his name?
Bob Sapp.
Yeah, Bob Sapp.
Bob fucking Sapp. Yeah, man.
He just gets paid to be big. That's
he gets paid to show up and get punched and tap.
There was a period in the early 2000s where the amount of merchandise with Bob Sapp's face on it was making him more money than his fights. I think
that's why he still stays around there. It's like he's like on cereal boxes and all that.
I'm pretty sure there was what's his name? Is it the monster Bob Sapp or something like that? There was a monster dildo with his face on it.
How big was it?
It was big. Yeah, it was big. It was like a fist. It was huge. But yeah,
his fist or just like a normal fist.
I think it would have been smaller. Although that would have been a good selling point. You know, plaster cast a mold of his fist.
Yeah. Or his cock, maybe, you know. Because that would
have... You said it, not me.
Are you homophobic?
No. But yeah, Bob Sapp, back to Bob Sapp. He's an interesting phenomenon because he beat Ernesto Hust twice.
That was a great fight as well. Like the one where he just like...
Clubbed him.
Yeah, clubbed him.
Yeah. Who was it he almost killed by dropping on his head?
Ernesto's like a high-level kickboxer, and he goes into MMA and just fights this behemoth, like has barely any technique. Imagine just winning fights based on just being black and huge.
He fought Tamura. Tamura was like a huge guy. He was Pancrase, was he? Pancrase champion, king of Pancrase, something like that. Huge name in Japan, about like a middleweight or a welterweight, and he fought Bob Sapp, and Bob just walked through him, just whoop, out.
The one that always makes me sort of cringe is when you see his jaw getting broken against Krokop.
Oh yeah,
have you seen that?
Orbital?
No, I thought it was his jaw because he goes down holding it, but it could be his orbital. Maybe
he's like crying. He's like, I must be faithful.
He seems like he's just like a giant puppy. Like,
oh yeah, He's like, he'd be a lovely guy to have a beer with.
He's like is it Lemmy from Of Mice and Men, you know, just like stroking puppies and killing them because he's stroking them so hard, you know. He's just like
Bob Sapp, I think he's actually started to win again.
Mm-hmm.
He went on a run of 13 losses or something
Okay.
like that, was it not? It was just like Bob Sapp's world tour. He was just going to different countries and getting beat. It was to the point where people would run across the ring at him and he'd go down as soon as he got touched and just cover up. And yeah.
That's
I wonder if we'll see him in anything else, or is that just he's going to live his days out in Japan?
Well, I think he fights all across the world. I think he's fighting in like Russia, and
Okay.
any world that'll have him essentially,
And not test him.
Yeah,
Not test him, yeah, exactly.
6'6", 350 pounds with a 6-pack. No, dude.
It's the triceps as well. We
Indeed.
talked about that. Remember the last time on the show?
So.
Yeah,
With
it's
the
a-
indicators of steroid
Oh, yeah,
use.
no,
Red
yeah, it was
flags.
there was the
Trapezius,
traps,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, not
Yeah,
triceps.
No, triceps, no.
I'd be
Red flag, look at his t-shirt.
I'd be. Everyone would believe I'm not on steroids because of my traps or
no.
my triceps.
It's a major problem. Steroids. It's something that really turned me off of wanting to compete. Was just how many guys are just demonstrably on gear, and it's even at the kind of semi-pro amateur level.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, why are you doing that to your body? Man? Well,
I
I can
know.
see why you're doing it to your body, but you know,
you're trying to keep up with the competition.
indeed.
I know there's one of the brilliant examples of this in the disparity between people who are on gear and who are not is the one that ended up being to do with the Russian scandal. It was a cyclist. It was the guy who did the Tour de France type cycling, and he was always placing something. He was only an amateur guy. He was like not even a pro.
Oh, is this the documentary?
Yeah. And he was placing like 30th consistently all the time and just couldn't get anywhere near the top 30. Like, even though he was placing like 30, the next guy was just so far ahead. So he knew and understand that these guys were just all on gear, and he wanted to document himself taking this stuff and getting to the last event and trying to see the difference in his position, and then come out at the end and saying, look, I pissed clean this whole time, but I was taking steroids, and you can see me going up in places in these races. But the guy he started working with was involved in the Russian scandal with steroids during the Olympics. And that was the guy he was going back and forth with just before that happened, and so he got he got caught up in all this. It was amazing.
What's
so
it
it
called?
started out
Is it Lazarus?
Icarus.
Yeah, I was thinking Lazarus. Wrong legend.
Yeah.
wrong biblical story.
Exactly.
But it started off as a sort of like about trying to game the system, and it was about cycling specifically. That was all. And then when this guy got caught out, it was all about him trying to get away and not be killed by the Russian
Scapegoat,
government.
wasn't he?
You know.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I need to watch that. It's sitting on my list.
No, he did it. He was the one that was involved in like making sure these guys didn't get piss hot for what they're taking. So he did it. He wasn't denying that.
Oh no, yeah. What I mean
but
is
it's
he got
government funded.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He got scapegoated, as in they were trying to say he's the guy.
Yeah.
When
Oh,
really
yeah.
he was the guy helping them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were pinning it all. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
it now. Yeah.
It's the whole thing with the bottles, and it was like, you know, these bottles are tamper-proof. You can't tamper with them. Russians are like, give me 10 minutes.
Give me 5 minutes. That's
Come
my
back,
terrible
London.
Russian accent.
Better than mine.
The, give me this bottle.
Russian's one I can't do. I can't do Russian accents.
No.
Welsh, South African, I'm okay at, but like the difficult ones.
I assume that your South African and Welsh accent sounds eerily similar.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm not doing them.
If I try to do an Indian accent, it sounds Welsh. I'm not going to embarrass myself.
Why would you ever do an Indian accent
Just if you're
when you're
you know,
mocking people on the street? Is that
if you
that-
were mocking people, or if you were wanting to say something in the accent, that sort of thing. Funny story actually about accents. Me and Megan, my partner, were on holiday in Malta a few years ago. We got into the lift coming from the pool, going up the stairs. So we got in the lift. A couple hold the door. So they came in. Megan was saying, "Okay, what floor are you going to?" And they were Irish. They went, "Floor 3." So Megan turned around and looked at the buttons and went, "3." Pressed the number 3 and then immediately recognised that these people were going to kill her. They were proper staring daggers at her. And that's one of my favourite stories about accents.
Imagine if it had been an Indian family and they'd said 3 funnily, and she was just like
Replied
copied it and then
replied in
pressed the
Welsh.
button, and then they were like
What's
looking
it
at
called
her.
again? It's echolalia, isn't that what it's called?
Okay.
You hear someone say something and you
You
want to repeat it.
repeat it, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've caught myself doing that a couple of times. Just a way to do it.
There's a similar thing with when you go to a stand-up comedy show, because you feel, especially at an amateur level, if there is an amateur level of stand-up,
Club level.
yeah,
sort
club
of,
level, and you hear people shouting out, and it's like a sort of a spasm or a tick. They just can't help it, even though normally you wouldn't shout out like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear something like someone trying to be funny over the top of a comedian, but they just can't help themselves, and it's like a tick, and just
They are the
weird.
worst. It's
We went to see Jim Jeffries, not the ex-Hearts manager, the comedian.
the
and-
Australian one.
Yeah,
Is that,
exactly. We went to see him, and it was a really good show, except for the middle part where there was the typical "I'm going to shout at Jim Jeffries" heckler,
Yeah.
and just could not get him to shut up, and just not even shouting anything smart.
Mm.
And he's like, "I literally can't understand what you're saying."
Was it in Scotland by any chance?
It was in Glasgow, and it was terrible.
Alright,
But-
pal.
yeah, but it was so thick and ory that you couldn't understand what the guy was saying.
So you couldn't
Yeah.
even like sort of burn him with any comeback because he
Yeah.
just didn't know what he was saying.
That's it. And security took too long to get him. I don't know why you do that.
Yeah.
It's just like you're saying. It's just like a tick.
It's like
Mm.
wanting to
can't
be the
help yourself.
centre of attention, is it not? It's just
Mm.
you see someone else getting on the limelight and you think, well, I could have a bit of that if I
Mm.
shouted something funny.
Especially
Yeah.
when everyone's quiet and there's one person
Yeah.
talking. So that then becomes 2 people talking and then
Mhm.
everyone listening,
Yeah.
which is it's weird.
It's
Yeah,
just attention. It is.
Yeah.
Whilst we're on the subject of accents and things like that,
You're gonna do your Indian one.
I am. No. I always tell the story about Megan in her Irish accent in the elevator, and if she listens to this, she'd be annoyed that I didn't give her side of the story.
Okay.
Her favorite accent story is when I took her to Paris for her birthday, and I'd been practicing French so that I could have basic phrases, ask her
Mhm.
for the check, that sort of thing, or the bill. So practicing bonjour, 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 jump on the bus, and I just went hello, just in a French accent. I don't know why I
Hello.
said hello in a French accent. Hello.
You should have went hello, hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Have you seen this came out today actually, but I think it's been pretty much clear that this might happen. But the Simpsons are now taking down Apu as a character in the show because of all the outcry of his racist character.
I've heard this. I have heard this.
And it came that it's happening today. Like it came out that they're going to be taking him out the show, which is it's weird. It's like an admission of guilt, though. It feels like you must think it's racist if you're taking him out. If it's, I think if it's supposed to be innocent
Mhm.
as you think and have made it out to be for all these years, to then change like that, it feels like an sort of you feel like it's
Admission
racist.
of guilt,
Yeah.
There's so much Simpsons out there. I'm not sure it would serve the same purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you take it out after the first season because you go, actually, that's not polling very well, and we kind of look bad.
Mm.
Fair enough. But what's it?
Well-
24 seasons, something like that.
I mean, personally, I think it's them just clambering at straws to stay relevant and be like something that people want to watch, because they're. I don't know anyone that watches The Simpsons.
No, I
it's
don't
just
really.
something that's on.
I've not seen a new episode in years. This is one reason why I'm not too bothered about it. Like, I wouldn't judge them for not thinking about that ahead of time. But I think this is a kind of fair reaction to. I mean, whether I think it's just or not, people were up in arms about it.
And people jump on this whole thing of
Mhm.
saying, well, look at groundskeeper Willie. He's
Mhm.
he's Scottish. There's a lot of Scottish stereotypes, if there is any in there. And he's a janitor, and he's
Mhm.
like shredded when he takes his top off.
Like
And
we all are.
and we're all ginger, and we all have a pet wolf.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is a stereotype as well. There's a lot of stereotypes
Mhm.
in The Simpsons. So why is it that one that is one that people are
Mm.
jumping onto and thinking that it's so severe?
It's as simple for me. It's as simple as because it's on message and people made a big stooshy about it. So that's why. To me, there's not an actor that's going out of work because it's just
Yeah.
a voice that a guy does. Doesn't do that voice anymore. It's as simple as that.
And he does a ton of them anyway, so he's still
Mhm.
got his job.
Yeah.
It's not just the one voice he does in The Simpsons.
Although there is a lot of nuance to the characters,
Mm.
what's Apu, his brother Sanjeev,
Sanjeev.
and his wife Mandula.
Vangata.
No, I can't remember her name. Anyway, but there's obviously a lot of nuance to those characters, right? But
She got the same name as what makes crocodiles angry.
I love Waterboy too.
I was thinking in my head, what is it that makes crocodiles angry?
Is it not because they have so many teeth?
That's what it is.
Yeah, they don't have a big.
Toothbrush, yeah. Keep it down. Well, on the face of it, there are a lot of kind of negative connotations around Apu as a character. Not just about. I mean, obviously, it's a kind of a niche group. It's not Indians; it's Indian Americans, as in people from India who now live in America. Like Mindy Kaling would be a good example.
Yeah.
Apu's life, how it played out in The Simpsons over the fucking 30 years it's been on air,
Wow.
probably doesn't reflect a lot of people's lives anymore. Not to say that's a good reason, but I think they got to the point where there was more reasons to get rid of Apu than it was to keep him.
And it's also, you could also say that about all the whole of The Simpsons as well, because it doesn't really relate to anybody now either. And more so when it's something that is very stereotyped like that, you know, like Apu. So I get why, but to me, it's a symptom of just the show has to go because it's not funny anymore to me. You know,
there's still people still watch it.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's still it's on broadcast TV in America. It still makes it to people's TiVo boxes or whatever they use in America now.
It's got the same place as Friends does. Let's be honest.
Whoa. No, but Friends.
At the end of the day, after all of the news on Channel 4,
Friends stopped and is now revered because it stopped, and it was revered at the time because it was a great show. Yep. You know, guys, relatively.
Can we just on the Friends references?
The bit that gets me all the time in that TV show is when Joey has the turkey on his head. It's hilarious, and then Monica comes in and he's like.
But there's two ways they could mess up the Simpsons. You could mess up the situation. One, it's that thing TV shows do where it's like a fake out and then go, oh, Apu's going to leave. Oh, no, he's not. Yeah. The episode he ends up. There's the whole Armin Tanzarian thing, you know.
Bleaches his skin or something.
Or the Apu and Sanjeev and his wife and the 8 kids all leave, and then they bring in a new character that's voiced by one of the people. I would hate it if the guy who initially complained about this got a part in this instance because of this.
Okay.
I would actually. That's actually worse than keeping Apu. Yeah, I'm not joking.
But do you know what? You could almost argue that it's getting rid of diverse, multicultural characters in The Simpsons. Like, how many other people are going to be black or from a different country in that show now? You know, you're getting rid of it.
Smithers, well, in the first episode anyway.
Where's Smithers from?
Oh no, Smithers. No, they say it was like a printing error for the first episode.
Oh yeah, his skin was different.
Black in the first episode.
Oh yeah.
They say it was a printing
like the
error.
Hulk was originally grey, and then they had to.
But that was because they couldn't afford the green ink or something, and then they made the grey Hulk because that was Joe Fix-It.
Yeah.
I think I've seen. When I say I've seen them talking about Apu being removed from The Simpsons, I listened to a podcast a while ago. It would have been a couple of years ago now, and it was a lot of Asian Americans talking, or Asian British guys talking about how Apu. To your point about diversity, they were saying they would prefer if Apu was removed rather than stayed there, reinforcing sort of negative stereotypes. They're saying he does more harm than good, being in than out.
Okay.
So they were saying they would prefer less diversity on the show if the diversity that is introduced is like a crude caricature of what Asian Americans are like, with a own a corner store, they're really tight with their money, they have loads of children, big families, that sort of thing.
But to say those people don't exist is sort of it's not it's very that's not it's disingenuous to say that those people don't exist.
It's the same. I think Family Guy do it really well, where they make a parody of that.
Yeah,
you'll have the news reporter Trish Takanawa. Like on American TV, there's a lot of Asian news reporters, but they make fun of that and parody it multiple times. Whereas I think with Apu, they were trying to.
It's straight up. It's just a straight up sort of
Exactly. It's not as subtle as what they're doing with Lenny and Carl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
well, Lenny and Carl.
Lenny and Carl.
Are they gay? No.
Who knows?
No, they're not.
What's the thing? What's the subtle thing?
Like Lenny and Carl are really Kieran. Close best friends.
Oh, okay.
You don't have enough time for your fanfic.
But that's what I brought my notebook for.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough. Well,
we'll get into it afterwards.
I'll mark it later.
A UI 50 Shades of Grey happened.
Yeah.
It's like 50 Shades of Yellow.
It's like Twilight fanfic. Is that not what it is?
Simpsons fanfiction, Lenny and Carlo.
No, neither do I.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It was Twilight fanfic, wasn't it? Yeah.
Indeed, it was.
Crazy.
But yeah, I think I don't think you can hang your hat on
No.
Apu as a character.
No,
to
of
represent
course.
him. And plus, The Simpsons, it's a comedy cartoon.
It's not the hell. It's not the hell I want to die on.
Exactly.
This whole topic, but it is something that we can sort of get into and see why people are sort of.
I mean, hang your hat on like Apu representing a whole.
Mm-hmm.
People in America, But again, Simpsons is a comedy cartoon. Let's not get wrapped up in the political messages of everything. This is something that annoys me.
They should just set it in space now and then have Apu there serving like in a space.
Exactly.
A
Martian. No, I feel that things are way too politicized right now. I think like especially the events of the past week with the mail bombs or the,
Yeah. You mean person bombs?
They weren't bombs, just fucking.
You said mail bombs.
No, there were mail bombs. There were.
I know, but I'm saying person bombs.
Oh, very funny. Yeah. Very Canadian. Very.
I'm not inviting you back on here if you don't get my fucking jokes.
Yeah, well, you're never going back to Canada. You obviously had a bad influence on you.
I got straight in because Laura had her Canadian visa passport. They were just like, that's better than a passport. They just let me straight in because I was with her.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, if she trusts you, is that what it was?
Well, Canadians are so fucking trusting.
Oh, it's difficult. It's difficult to sneak into Canada these days, apparently.
Well, we tried, but yeah. Yeah. So what were we saying?
That's a good question.
Male bombs.
Oh, so it's like
female bombs.
Things are very over politicized. People get whipped up into a tizzy so quickly nowadays, and it's just like last week, 2 weeks ago, you had Hillary Clinton saying something to the effect of, the time to be civil to Republicans is over, and then this happens. And it's like, let's fucking calm down with over politicizing everything, making everything about politics. Maybe The Simpsons is just a cartoon. Yeah. Maybe you have to. What is it? The expression, you have to see it to be it. Yeah. Maybe that just sounds catchy, and it's not real.
Well, one of the phrases that always sticks in my mind from someone that's been on the show, Robert Garrett, who one of my favorite persons, been on a few times, and he says everyone acts that when you disagree with someone, that now then means you're my enemy, and that's the attitude everyone's taken at this point. This is why we're having these issues, because no, you can disagree with someone and be friends.
Yep. I read something the other day, and it said something like being taught to not talk about religion and politics has bred a generation who shy away from difficult conversations. Maybe what we should be teaching people is how to have civil conversations about difficult topics.
Exactly.
Give them the scientific tools to break these things down and have to look at things rationally, But we don't have that now because you're scared of offending someone because
and also there's currency in pretending to be offended. There's currency in listening to somebody clumsily word something and then speaking about that for the next half an hour as opposed to the subject at hand.
I've always found that's a substitute for an actual argument. 100%.
Definitely.
If you throw out that really offends me, then you have to argue against the offense as well as against your original point.
You can be offended, but it doesn't mean you're right.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Your opinions are not facts; they're just thoughts. I can offend you if I want because it's just a thing.
But it's like little things. It's like say you're in a hypothetical situation. You're in a group of friends.
This is really hypothetical for me because I don't have any friends.
Like you guys are one of the ones. And I
don't know if I can push my mind this far.
And you've got something to say, and he goes, "Guys, what do you mean, guys?" And that's the conversation derailed. You might have a good point on subject to what you're speaking about, but because then you have to have a conversation about, well, how gendered is our language? And
even folks, I know people that work in the service industry, and they said, do you want to pay your bill, folks? And it was a bunch of women. They got so annoyed at her for using
folks.
that wording. It's
folks is supremely ungendered.
I know. But
it's
maybe age.
Ladies.
Maybe it's something to do with age. Maybe they want it to be gendered because some people get pissed off when you don't say male or female.
Yeah. It's kind of that's something that annoys me. It's there's no space to go. Oh, sorry. Anyway, there's no space for that nowadays. It's like no, we have to let's pick this apart. Let's not. Let's go back to speaking about.
I've always been of the opinion that I don't speak to offend someone. If I offend someone and they say, look, I'd appreciate you not saying that. Yeah, fair enough, cool. I'm not going to say it if it's offending you. Like, if we're talking amongst us and I say, right, listen, guys, and the women go, I prefer if you didn't call me a guy.
Mm.
Like, okay, sorry, it was really colloquial and casual.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Okay, people or folk. I
Mm.
would have said folk. That's fair enough. I don't like the idea that you should monitor your speech to the point that you refrain from calling anyone guys
Yeah.
in case
Yeah.
you offend people. I know a lot of
Mhm.
women that'll address a room as all right, guys, and it's men and women. You know.
Mm.
So I don't understand. Like you're saying, it's so easy to offend people because they're looking to be offended, and it's a
I know-
substitute for actually
Like
talking about.
I know
real
girls
things.
that call each other dudes. You
Yeah,
know,
I
that's- I mean,
I maintain that dude is gender neutral.
I think
'Cause I-
it's generally.
Because I feel as though if you say someone can't be a dude, that's not very dudely behaviour.
but is the dude a guy?
Well, the dude abides.
Yeah.
So
the dude is a guy,
The dude is a
the,
guy.
the dude is a guy.
Yeah.
but you don't have to be a guy to be
But
a
a
dude.
dude,
No,
a dude
no,
isn't a guy.
yeah.
The dude is a guy.
That was a strange one to me to hear that though.
Mhm.
It was only recently I heard this two girls calling each other dude,
Mhm.
and I was like, I've never heard that one. But then I was like, why should it only just apply
Well-
to males? Like obviously,
Well, you just did what we were speaking about because you just said girls there. But I think
ladies.
being from the east coast of Scotland, we have a bit of an out
Mm.
because I don't know about you guys because I know we spoke. You mentioned this before how accents and dialects change over like 100 meters. In different parts of Scotland.
No
li-
joke. Literally no joke in
Literally across
Scotland.
the river to Doss, when you're from Aberdeen, means one thing and means something completely different in Fife, just across the same river. So it's
Doss.
Just a quick correction. I'm
Yeah.
not from Aberdeen.
Okay.
Arbroath, sorry,
Yeah.
Arbroath, that's Aberdeen there. Sorry.
Don't ever say
It's
that
all the
again.
same.
Sorry.
After that part, it's all the same. Sheepshaggers Anonymous.
Yeah.
So while
Yeah.
we say girl for
Mm.
women or females in general, certainly my family, and I've taken this on as well. I say boy when I mean a man.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
the boy from up the road, or the boy that works in the butchers.
Some boy.
Exactly. You said in the group chat, I it buys.
Alright, boys.
So it's like that's a part of our kind of
Yeah.
our dialect and stuff. So I feel as though if whenever this conversation comes up, that's something I'm always quick to point out that you're not calling me on that. You're not going to stop me from saying that because that's
Mm.
part of my culture,
No.
and you're not going to stop me from exercising my culture.
But you're white male, so your culture is irrelevant.
But I'm also Scottish, and we are a subjugated
Marginalised
minority
somewhere.
in the UK.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
But you also took part in the sort of slavery trade as well in Scotland.
Oh, but less so. We're going to have to do a whole totem pole, aren't we? Remember totem poles? Remember totem poles?
We
was
just
a
keep
thing
going back and back and
Yeah.
back.
years ago. That was after backpacks, but before. What was the one after? I can't remember what was after that. Remember the invisible backpack, and then it was the totem pole,
Yeah.
and then
The invisible backpack.
never heard the invisible backpack. The invisible backpack is it's kind of a useful metaphor to explain the kind of when they speak about privileges and
Right.
I can't remember the other vector they speak about, but basically, and it's like being
Right.
of certain groups, you have an invisible backpack that you have to carry around, and it's something that weighs you down. So whether it's institutional,
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for, homophobia or racism, those are things that are like bricks in an invisible backpack that kind of weigh you down. It had some merit, but obviously people have heard that and just took the piss and
Right, okay. So
ran.
it's changed to a totem pole now.
Oh, it just there are kind of metaphors that come
Okay.
in and out of vogue with certain groups.
The woke crew.
The woke crew, and the invisible backpack and the totem pole were two kind of
Right, okay.
more on the left. I mean, wokeness goes both ways. There are woke people on the right and woke people on the left.
Yes.
You know.
And
Yeah.
in the middle.
No, centrists are perfect. As a centrist, I can say, we are pretty much perfect because we don't pick a side.
Yeah.
So what's woke on the right side? Is that realizing and telling everyone, look, tax is theft? Is that
Small
woke right?
government and all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, when I was saying woke there, I was kind of meaning that philosophies that seem like they have a lot of sense but don't. So I would say like
Yeah. Okay.
people who identify as like race, they call themselves race realists.
Yeah.
They would say, well, that's a particularly woke, like being red. I suppose the
So
right wing
Stephen
would be red
Crowder,
pills.
is he would he consider himself sort of right like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's very much right.
But woke, right?
No, I think I would say he was. I think he would be above calling himself woke, or
Okay.
I think the right wing equivalent is being red pilled would be the kind of the expression they would use.
Ooh,
It's kind of the same.
dropping bombs.
a little bit.
Truth.
Stephen Crowder, I actually listened. Well, where I am with a lot of conservative voices is I don't financially contribute to their output.
Yeah.
But I still listen to what they have to
Yeah.
say, especially in times of the past couple of weeks when it's been
Yeah.
really politically charged.
And it's a mind exercise to listen to it and see them debating and stuff. You know, you just want to know what their thinking is. You don't want to just shut it off completely.
And it's like a nice little pattern to get into. You hear Stephen Crowder speaking shit about the Young Turks, and then you listen to the Young Turks speaking shit about Stephen Crowder, and then you go back and it's fucking brilliant. Stephen Crowder.
Have you seen his series on YouTube? And it's like something changed my mind.
Yeah, I've watched a bunch of them. The one on rape culture was, I thought, he conducts himself really well in those interviews, and the rape culture one was really interesting because there's a point where he goes at the start of it, because initially when he said this, I thought he was just saying this to not sound stupid. But he went, "I'm going to pretend with this conversation
that he doesn't, he doesn't know what's going on with the whole."
Not to know who Brett Kavanaugh was. He pretended not to know what
the whole
judgment was.
The women that came forward and all this sort of stuff.
And there was another thing he wasn't aware of. The FBI reporting statistics and stuff. There's an expression they used to say crimes
like
that
cops, like it was like just general cops.
Yeah, like not reporting crimes.
But like to me, I feel he's like uses old school debating tactics to make himself look sort of like he's like he's more knowledgeable, but he's just using debating tactics against people who are in college. You know, these people barely know their arse from their elbow.
And he knew the conversation. He knew the conversation was going to take part and prepared for it. And one thing I will say, they do their research. That's one reason why I keep listening to them, is because if there's a disinformation meter, they're pretty low down on it. The facts, they double check everything, they post their sources. I actually refer to their sources more than I refer to Stephen Crowder, or the other members of the crew that have kind of informed me about something. I don't watch Stephen Crowder for the comedy.
Right.
I've laughed once at Stephen Crowder.
His
joke,
podcast is not that great.
It was like a shaving joke. He Shave Club, the $1 Shave Club. He did like a one for them. That was hilarious. But there's just too much racist humor, and it's humor, but a lot.
I know what you're saying.
A lot of the kind of Asian humor he does, I'm just really, really unhappy with it.
It makes you feel uncomfortable when you watch it, because you're like, he's doing this to try and express that he can do it, and that there's nothing wrong with it in his mind.
I've got a half Asian lawyer and he's in the room. That doesn't make just because your half Asian lawyer was laughing doesn't make it okay. Like, I'm not going to say you shouldn't do it. It's his platform. He can do what he wants with it, but. It's one thing I watch, and it makes me less inclined to go back and watch it, because it's like, I don't want anyone overhearing me watching that. I don't want.
People will judge you if they see Stephen Crowder.
You know, he's an intelligent guy.
He is.
I think that's one of the things that comes through is he is intelligent and he knows how to debate. But does that mean that he's right? You know, that can be left up to, and even statistics and all of these facts can be sort of just taken and contorted into how you want to to show them up. You know,
I've only ever seen one Stephen Crowder video, and it was there's only two genders changed my mind. I stopped watching after that. I only watched halfway through because I could see that he was sitting well researched with an argument, and then the people he was picking to film or choose to include in the film were people that were representing things really, really poorly. Like they were just really shit at arguing or getting their point across.
Even people who were transgender as well. Like they just couldn't. They couldn't really come out to him with anything really of note.
It's the way the question's framed as well. I thought there's only two genders. Changed my mind. Well, there is, because you can't name any of the others. Because they're not in the common parlance at the moment.
Oh.
If you've got two genders, you've got male and female, right?
Yeah.
And that's not sexist, that's genders. So name the other seven or whatever they are. You can't. There's not a name for them.
No.
The whole argument is that there's a spectrum and people don't fit neatly into one or the other.
Yeah.
That's the argument. But he was presenting it as there's only two genders, changed my mind.
Yeah.
So he was psyching it up to have people shout at him and make people look stupid.
No, he's trying to cause a situation and have people
outrage,
sort of shout at him. And him being sort of quiet and having all the facts makes him look good as well.
So that's why I stopped watching Stephen Crowder.
But it's very much, it's the old kind of, I said this earlier to Kieran, that's why it's fresh in my mind, but it's the old kind of liberal adage. I think it's something similar to, you can do everything that affects nobody. So if you feel that you don't fit between male and female as far as gender or sex or however you consider it, that's fine. Ideologically, you feel how you want to feel within yourself and express that how you wish.
Of course.
But I think the big point that Stephen Crowder was trying to make, or the right try to make on this point, is that a lot of the research around the separation of gender and sex, a lot of it is scientifically is fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. There really is no scientific basis for
No.
gender and sex being separate other than the social sciences. So as far as trying to codify and introduce it into legislation and stuff, I don't think it's necessarily wise to start introducing these new genders and stuff like that, because it will be a thing in 5 years, but it might not be as much of a thing in 5 years. And yeah, I just...
When you're trying to bring it into law when you don't fully understand it, that's dangerous.
Why get the government involved?
That's dangerous.
Yeah, it is indeed. Like, it's how people feel individually. That's absolutely fine. But
people would say it's because they feel like they don't have enough rights, but that is sort of something that's said to sort of shut down the conversation.
It is indeed. Because this is one part I don't respect. I'll come out and say I don't respect the argument where, because you've said this, you're saying trans people shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
It's fucking nonsense. I don't. Anyone could say that. Even if they did say it, they don't have a good factual basis to put that point across. But yeah, I just feel that they jump to that, and I can understand that people in such a small, tiny minority would be hyper defensive of their position, because they would maybe feel that even something subtle is not respecting or not fully understanding or having a limit to which you will accept certain elements of the transgender movement. I feel as though they would take more offence than is warranted.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, back to the point. As long as you're not affecting anyone with your choices, I don't really mind. It's just, yeah.
One of the ones that sort of freaked me out was the rape culture one, and the girl that was sort of trying to debate him, and she was saying every one of her friends and her herself had been raped, and she still went to school, and the other guy that raped her was on campus, and then the police come along, and she was saying, "Oh, I got raped too. Are you just gonna have this guy here?" And the cop was like, "Give me your information. Where what's this guy? Blah blah blah." And she was like, "No, just fuck off," and didn't want to deal with it if it was true,
You've got two kind of.
So there's this hostility as well,
Well, it's this notion of listen and believe.
Yeah.
And then there's another side of it that I think people have a hard time articulating, but it's something I kind of was made aware of a good couple of years ago, which is trust but verify. That there's kind of two separate ways of looking at that particular situation.
Yeah.
Both, I think, trust but verify allows you to look at the person and think, well, I trust that you're not telling me a lie, but
we have to verify this.
I need to know that that's not a lie to condemn someone to the worst crime the worst crime we have. I mean, it's one of the few crimes we consider worse than murder.
Yeah.
So yeah, that may be uncomfortable, that whole section, because obviously that's somebody who's had a bad experience.
There are plenty of people that have had bad experiences with this, and
but the police were very fair in that respect, because they said to her, "Listen, if you're getting upset, he's not making you sit here. You can leave at any time." And
she just wouldn't leave.
And the big part of that was anecdotal evidence. Everyone had anecdotal evidence to back up their point, and Stephen Crowder had facts and stats. And then their whole point was, well, that's the same girl we're speaking about. Her whole point was, these crimes go unreported. So how can you know?
Yeah.
Well, then you're making the whole thing unknowable.
They're not. It's not based on any. Yeah. So just kind of taking the mood slightly better than this, but
it's brighten things up. Kids, can we lighten up a little?
So yesterday was the release actually of Red Dead Redemption 2. Now I don't know if you guys ever played the first one was Call of Juarez. Was that? Do you know this?
That was DLC.
Was it a DLC?
No, there's Red Dead for like the fucking.
What was the first one?
Red Dead Redemption was the first one.
The one with there was a guy.
There was a game before Red Dead Redemption on the fucking Spectrum or something,
on the early console,
on the Amiga, or like
okay.
No, it wasn't that early.
It was like a text adventure. No, it was a board game.
Go forward.
Pen and pencil.
I'm just checking, but yeah, I don't know if you guys were.
No, I'm typically not an early adopter when it comes to games. I tend to let them come out for a little while before I play them. Fallout 76 might be a slight variation on that, because the closer that gets to release, the more hype they get. But I don't know. As I mentioned before, I'm a software tester. In my job, I did not know this. I don't want to do that in my spare time as well. So
sitting hunting bugs.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not an early adopter of video games either, to the point where I'm playing Red Dead Redemption. I was trying to say the first one, but the original Red Dead
Yeah.
Redemption.
Oh, you
that
played
one
it
on
just
Xbox,
like.
yeah.
Are you just
Yeah.
playing it now?
I'm playing it now, yeah. So I'm way behind.
So you just
the curve.
leave it till the next one comes out,
Yeah,
and
I'm-
then
I'm super far behind. I bought Skyrim when it came out.
I lost 3 months of my life to Skyrim.
Well, I lost a lot more than that to Oblivion. So I bought Skyrim and then never played it, and then eventually sold all my stuff and I got rid of it. And I've just started playing that again just
It's
now.
amazing.
I was
Yeah.
playing Fallout 4
Incredible.
until like 3 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know.
I started playing that. I lost all my save data for some reason.
I'm so sorry for you.
I can't remember. I think my PS4 broke or something like
right.
that, and
That's
I
not
was
good.
so raging because I had went so far along with it, but it was a great game.
Yeah, it's really
So what's the difference between Fallout and the new one? Is it just
So
a multiplayer? Is
it's
it an-
online, yes. It's
Okay.
an online version. Thematically, it's set. It's the earliest in the series. So I think this takes place maybe 30 years, 40 years after the bombs drop in
Okay.
the Fallout universe.
So it's not a straight sequel to the one that just came out.
No, it's like a major prequel. It's before actually the events of Fallout 1. Maybe, about 50 years before the events of Fallout 1. But it's an MMORPG. It looks like a Fallout game, but doesn't play like a Fallout game. There's lots of there's no NPCs.
Right. Okay.
NPCs. I'm going to speak about that one. But it looks really fun.
Yeah,
Again,
I've read a lot. on it.
Bethesda games are super buggy, and then adding the MMORPG
Yeah.
element on top of it is just going to make it 10 times worse. So that's why I'm not inclined to buy it on release. All of my friends are buying it on release, and I'd like to play with my friends before I go and play the single. Because the interesting thing is you could play the whole story campaign as a single player.
Right.
It'll just be fucking nails. But you're meant to play it co-op as well. So Bethesda games the RPGs are really good for this. That there's lots of different ways to play it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be again a massive fucking time sink. It's this whole thing. Oh shit! Sorry. This whole thing about losing months of games is exactly the reason why I haven't played The Witcher.
Oh
I play
man.
The Witcher.
I'm the
You
same.
will not hear from me. This beard will touch my fucking nuts.
That was
before I stop playing
for
that
me.
game.
That was
Like,
better than Skyrim.
oh,
when
no,
I
I've
played
heard.
The Witcher 3, it was just oh man, it was I'd never played any of the Witchers before,
Yeah.
so I just went straight in with the third one, and it was just amazing. Yeah.
I've heard that. I'm the same as you. I've not played The Witcher 3 because it's massive and I know I will get lost.
Yeah.
Is it not bigger thematically and physically than Skyrim?
Oh, completely.
Way bigger.
Yeah, there's just it's so dense. Like
Mhm.
just the stuff that you can do, not even towards the main missions, just side offshoots that you go.
Yeah.
And I was so surprised with Skyrim how good that was for the sort of side missions and just bumping into random people and getting like going into caves and fighting things that were nothing to do with the
Yep.
main mission. But this is like 10 times more than that.
I read an interview with one of the producers from the Witcher series, and he was saying, I think it's CD Projekt Red, Polish guys.
Yeah.
They were saying that, or he was saying that when they approve a new side mission or a new story for a side mission, it's because it could stand alone as a DLC or a game.
No way.
So it has to have substance. There
Ah.
has to be a story and it has to make sense. And
Makes so much sense.
a lot of Skyrim has you'll typically have lost something. You go away, find it. Cool, here's some gold,
yeah.
and you might kill some skeletons or
Yeah.
something. That's Skyrim side missions.
So that touches on a major criticism of Skyrim. It's really oft repeated, but Skyrim is the size of an ocean, but the depth of a puddle. It's the best way to put it. Because Skyrim is really, really fun.
Yeah.
But again, it is just like, oh, I've lost my sword. I'll go get your sword.
I
Here's your
think
sword.
at the
Here's some
time
gold,
it was
you know.
just it was so good, but we've obviously encountered better games and more in-depth games since then, so you can kind of look back on it.
Mhm.
But yeah, like it when you do see it like that, it was sort of like there was none of those side missions could be a story in itself.
Yeah.
But the Witcher 3 is just
Yeah.
And how do you feel about the releasing the TV show and Henry Cavill is going to be playing Garrett?
I've
Garrett
heard about
or
this.
Geralt?
Geralt,
Geralt.
isn't it? Yeah.
Geralt.
Geralt. Yeah.
Where's-
Gerald.
Gerald.
Hello.
Geralt.
Tell about
Where's it coming out? Who's publishing it?
I think it's Netflix, is it not?
I think it was Netflix or Amazon Prime, one of the two.
Yeah,
Amazon Prime, it might be actually.
I think it is Amazon.
Things I'll never fucking watch it.
I mean, I trust Netflix to do it more than I would trust Amazon Prime to do that.
Have you watched much on Amazon?
Oh, I have Amazon Prime, so I only watch movies. I don't watch anything that they've made.
I got it by accident. I forgot to cancel it, so I thought
Was
I
it
might as well try
$79?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Everyone
no.
gets filled with that
Well,
one.
now what it is you can get it free, and if you cancel straight after, you can just keep getting your free next day delivery.
Okay.
I forgot to do that. So it's $7.99 a month now. So I thought I might as well. I'm paying for it. I've paid for it for a few months. I might as well watch it. So we had a look through, and Megan had said it's a lot of the same type of stuff that's on Netflix. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Same type of stuff. Like you will watch 10% of what is there. The only thing we've ever watched on there and really enjoyed was The Tick.
Yeah,
I love
The Tick is hilarious.
the live
I've not
action
seen that.
series.
Pete
Is that
Serafinowicz.
Or the movie.
Oh, is it the new one?
Yeah.
The new
Oh,
one.
fantastic. I
Is
love
it the
those
movie
ones.
or the
No,
new
series.
TV show?
Fucking Batman well.
It's incredible.
Really?
Pete Serafinowicz is
Okay.
the Tick.
That's fantastic.
Is it good?
It's amazing. It's so funny. It looks really cheesy and like 80s live
Yeah.
action cartoony,
Yeah.
stupid, but no, it's super funny. And they've done it really well. There's some nice serious bits, but for the most part, it's Pete Serafinowicz being totally ridiculous. It's good. But no, I heard The Witcher was they were going to release that, so I thought I'm going to have to play this game before I watch the TV show. I don't think that's going to happen.
The only thing I've been
It's
watching
too
on
big.
Amazon is they've just released all the seasons and episodes of The Office with Prime, so it's all
yeah.
free. So I
It used to
can
be
watch.
on Netflix as well. That's
Yeah,
not
they tease you with things like that. The amount of times that I've had something on my list and I'm like, I'm going to watch this when I feel like it. But fuck yeah, this is a great movie. Like Fallen Down, that was on Netflix for a while and they took that off.
I love Fallen Down.
So I had to watch it on Amazon and pay for it.
Yeah.
There's
Ooh,
just been
painful thing.
or just even things you would expect to be on Netflix are just
Yeah,
never
right.
there.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like Tropic Thunder, I watched that the other day legally.
It's not on
And
Netflix.
it's not on Netflix. It's
Nope.
not on Netflix. I had to watch it somewhere else legally.
Were you doing anything else that was like highly legal?
You try to get me in fucking trouble.
Well, could be legal sometime soon.
Let's fucking hope.
But yeah, like just being able to watch all the offices is just officey or offices. Office-eye, that is it.
Office-eye, that'll do.
It's great. But I wish they had that on Netflix.
And they did. That was something that was on my list and it disappeared.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Pumping Iron is still there.
Right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary.
Hey, that is a good fucking movie.
I've not watched it, but it's been on my list since I got Amazon.
You have to watch it.
Since I got Netflix, sorry.
I have to watch it. That is my
I've never
Austrian
watched
accent.
it sober. It's one of those movies you just.
I know.
It's a good after the pub movie.
I need to watch it.
You and a pal just sitting on a couch, like
Clothed.
that's going to be me someday. Arnold's the master of warfare, mental warfare.
Fucking
Hand jobs at dawn.
master of speedos.
But yeah, like I don't know what. I was a bit disappointed they had Henry Cavill for the part of Geralt.
Makeup and fucking CGI will do the rest of it.
Well,
you know.
hopefully they don't have to CGI his mustache out, or we'll.
No, not at all. He's a pretty good actor, Henry Cavill.
Yeah, I thought the first Superman with him was amazing. Like it was good, and I think that was only because what's the Shannon guy, the General Zod, Michael Shannon. He was an amazing actor, and to have someone that was on the opposite side of him kind of brought the best out in him as an actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's okay. He's good at a lot of things, I guess.
I've never watched the Superman movies with him in it because I don't like the Superman character.
Yeah.
Do you not think
Me
it's
too.
a bit bland?
It's a hard one to sort of put it onto the screen. It works in comics, but when it goes to games and the big screen, it doesn't translate that well.
What reminds me of how terrible a character is, unless he's in comic book, is the Christopher Reeve spinning backwards around the earth to turn the time back
Yeah.
to save
Hell yeah.
Lois.
But they find ways to depower him a lot in the comic books. I remember, I don't really read a lot of DC.
Like I saw one, it was like a kryptonite cock ring. Like he wore it. I'm joking.
But there's one where like they gave him a new power where he just kind of like turns into like a fucking kryptonite bomb.
Wow.
And then so all of his energy like exudes, and then he's like mortal for a week or something.
Is that like the supernova one? Like it was he got like a new power recently. Is the one where he goes like supernova?
That sounds like a spirit bomb from Dragon Ball Z to me. That's what it sounds like.
Fucking nerd.
I've never seen Dragon Ball Z.
Weeb.
Come on. You've never watched Dragon Ball Z?
I
watched
never.
Dragon Ball
I didn't
Z.
even know it was a thing until I was like 24.
The best thing to do is, I used to come home from school and watch it on Cartoon Network.
Mhm.
I
Right.
think a lot of people will have done the same.
I did
You
not
come home from
have-
school, watch Cartoon
I didn't have
Network.
Cartoon Network. I had
Um,
Council TV.
Well,
And this fancy
Channel 6.
Sky.
we didn't, and then I had to go to my mate's house when we got Council TV. But yeah, come home from school, we'd all run in and watch Dragon Ball Z. But the problem with Dragon Ball Z is that 7 out of 10 episodes have the characters flying at each other, and they're getting closer and closer, and then it's the end of the episode.
Right.
But they've recently brought out Dragon Ball Kai, I think it is. So they've remastered and re-edited it, and redone all the voices with the original guys
from the original season.
So all the original voice actors are in it, and they've remastered it and re-edited it, and they've taken out a lot of the chaff.
Okay.
So you can, instead of watching 120 hours, you can watch 90 and get the same story and
the good stuff. Yeah.
So it's a good time to jump in if you want to watch cartoons about space monkeys fighting.
I might do that.
I've just never been a big fan of anime, or is that? I know people get really fucking defensive about this. Is that anime? That is anime.
If it's filmed, it's anime. If it's a book,
not
it's manga.
It's drawn though.
If it's drawn, it's manga. Of course, it's not.
But what if it's something drawn and then made into a cartoon?
That's anime.
I've just never had a big
Howler's Moving
interest
Castle.
in it.
Howler's Moving Castle.
Howler's Moving Castle.
Yeah,
do you not like that?
You don't like that?
Not even aware of it.
Why?
No, I don't know. I like.
You still like Ghost in the Shell?
I like Ghost in the Shell. I like that. I saw that. I like that.
The original.
Yeah, the original. Yeah.
Okay.
There are a couple of seen,
versions.
like Akira. I've
Yeah.
seen that.
Akira's brilliant.
I don't know if you'd count Afro Samurai, but Afro Samurai, I really enjoyed that.
It's kind of somewhat.
That's what got me into it. That's really what got me into the whole thing. Was Afro Samurai. But I'm not really into Japanese animation.
Yeah.
I get the appeal. I see the difference in quality of animation and stuff like that, but it's just not my bag. It's just not. I don't get Japanese the whole infatuation with Japanese culture at the best of times. So
racist.
No, I like pro wrestling, and I like some parts of Japan. I'm not like some parts of Japanese culture, like the pro wrestling and
noodles.
The real muscly men, not the cartoon muscly men.
He likes wrestling and super noodles.
I like ramen. No, but just anime is just it's never really resonated with me. But it seems to be there's no middle ground. Either people like me or they.
I'm in the middle with it, to be honest. I love. There's ones I love, but I'm not into a whole huge host of it stuff. Like I loved Guyver when I was younger as well, which got made into like a live action movie, which that would be. Have you heard of Guyver?
I have. I think you told me about it before.
Oh, it's amazing. But the comic books which is manga, is just unreal. And it's about this sort of suit that comes from space, and then this guy. It sounds more like other things I've heard, but it's like a sort of symbiote suit. And it's kind of mecha as well. Okay. So then this guy puts it on, and it has like bio-organic stuff coming out as well. But it's not like what's his name, Venom. No, it's like an actual bio suit. Yeah. So they made that into a movie, but it was terrible.
Okay.
It came out in the 90s, and it just
like they've tried to do with Death Note.
Yeah.
Nothing really makes it good.
No.
my friends are really into. Was it Garo? Is that a thing?
Garo.
Never heard of that.
Garo's like I've had explained it to me a couple of times, but I don't know.
So just to bring it back to Red Dead, do you think you'll be sort of purchasing it anytime you?
I will be purchasing it in 5 years.
Okay.
No,
you don't want to jump on the bandwagon.
I do. I really do. I've got a backlog of games I want to play, and I would like to finish the first one first. Yeah. But I do. It looks amazing.
Where did you get the first one? Can you play it on PS4?
No. The first one is in Red Dead Redemption that came out for the Xbox and the PlayStation.
Oh, right, okay.
Not the first one that Scott was talking about that came out on the Amiga or whatever.
No, I'm just meaning like you can play the old one on your new console.
No, I don't have a new console.
Oh. You just have the console that came out at that time.
Yeah, I've got a 360 and then I moved to PC, so I've not got.
What a great console this 360 was.
I know. I still play Fallout 3 in New Vegas on Xbox.
So good.
Yeah.
Like I skipped the generation of the PS2. I just skipped by that because I wanted to play the 360. It was just so much better.
Well, I've had the 360 since. Funnily enough, my dad bought it for himself. He never got a look in. He never touched it, but he bought it for himself because he thought Halo looked incredible. So it was not long after the release of the 360 he got one with the huge chunky green
I've
controller.
got one of them.
Yeah. So that's what I was used to playing on, and I've just not moved on from that.
Yeah. So I started playing the game last night.
Oh, yeah, how is it? Yeah,
I didn't finish it. Stopped playing it till this morning. So I'm surprised I'm awake at this point.
Wow.
It's just it's hard to explain. It's like actually it's the closest thing to being in a movie. And there's usually something that you notice with Rockstar games is there's a little bit of a transitionary period where you're getting used to the controls again and the sort of the the sort of actual physics of it, but it's just seamless in this. It's like totally different from past Rockstar games. To me anyway, like it just feels like you're actually controlling someone, and it's not got that GTA vibe to it, like just GTA in the Wild West. It doesn't have that vibe.
It's different.
It's its own thing.
That's
now.
what the first one feels like.
Yeah,
it's like
the controls are very similar.
They've tried to put controlling a car onto a horse. Which I loved the game. I didn't enjoy it to start with, but I love the game now. I just don't like riding a horse because it's super annoying, especially shooting from a horse. It feels really, really hard. I like that they've put so much detail into the second game, or it looks like they've put, so much detail into the second game. Weird things like your horse's balls will shrink when it snows, or you can walk and leave track marks in the snow and they stay there for a realistic amount of time.
I was trying to put like like a penis in the snow last night with my horse, and I was like, I'm 31 years old. There's no way I should be doing this. But I did.
That's the thing to say. Give a man a penny, he'll draw a penis.
It seems so with the computer game. I have a friend who worked for Rockstar North, and yesterday was a big thing for him, obviously. Him and his team, so they've all got like photographs of them outside the main headquarters with their cowboy hats on and the big sign behind them, and it's a good day for them.
Have you seen the big Kotaku story where they're talking about conditions in Rockstar and how it differs office to office in terms of the crunch? No, I'll send you it after. There was a journalist was starting to write a story about how people are really poorly treated inside Rockstar and how it's a really difficult company to work for.
No, I was just meaning me. I wasn't pointing at you.
I thought you were gesturing to me. I'll come closer. Saying how it's a really difficult place to work, except in certain locations. So Edinburgh, for example, Edinburgh's been notoriously a great place to work. I know people that work at Rockstar. One of the guys that I spoke to, he said he's heard horror stories, but it's literally been the best place ever for him to work. Whereas,
and I guess that's been the home of Rockstar forever.
Yeah.
Well,
so
North,
there's Rockstar there, and then the head is it LA, the other one, the big one, but then Rockstar Lincoln down in England is where they do all the testing.
Right, okay.
And as Scott knows, everyone hates testers and give them a fucking hard time. And so in video games, during the production of a video game, during the cycle, what they'll reach at the end of it, typically at the end, is what they call a crunch.
Okay.
So that's where everything has to be finished within this certain period. So you're just going to have to put in the hours to do it.
Right.
And people talk about sleeping under their desks, 100-hour weeks, that sort of thing.
Elon Musk in it.
Exactly, yeah. Rockstar got to the point during their crunches that they would put on laundry service because people literally weren't getting enough time in their house to do the laundry. Yeah. So you'll already have kitchens, you'll already have showers, people will sleep there, do the laundry there, that sort of thing. So this article was talking about how conditions were notoriously bad to the point Rockstar says, right, we will open up about it. They've always denied it. It's not that bad. They wanted to open up and say, we will let you speak to anyone you want. Anyone who wants to come forward, anonymize them. We want to hear what they have to say, sort of thing. And in that, people were saying, if everyone is treated so badly, to the point where people were saying October 17, they entered crunch. It's supposed to be a short period where you burst. They entered October 2017. In October 2018, they're still crunching. They're still doing 60 to 80 hours a week.
That's for a year?
For a year, an entire year.
Shit. It's only supposed to be like 3 months, is that what you're saying?
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, you can kind of understand it if it's for 3 months, but a whole year to be on that schedule.
A lot of
people must be just fraying and just...
It's hard. They don't want to give up because their bonus at the end of the year is tied to that. And if you don't last in the company until the game comes out, you don't get your name in the credits. Which is a huge thing.
Yeah, to someone who's coming up. Yeah.
For anyone, my friend Martin on Twitter, he's got his credits in, I think, GTA 4, GTA 5, and Red Dead 2.
Wow.
That's
huge.
If he wants to go get another job, he can work anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can say his price. But it's obviously tied to your year-end bonus as well on the performance of the game. So people read this and go, I'm not going to buy that. I'm not going to support that company. But you have to, because then they don't get the reward at the end.
How does that work for a computer game, the testing aspect of it? Like, is it just generally people sitting down with a controller and going through it, or is it through like simulations, or is it software that works on it? And
so it's not something I've done in super great depth. I've tested some online based browser games, but I've not tested proper video games. But it basically, you treat it like you would test, well, ideally, you treat it how you would test most other software, and you kind of, the first thing you really check is what's called collision detection. So it's basically making sure, like racing games is a good example. This is what I'm most familiar with.
Right.
So racing games, what you would do initially is you would check the boundary of the side of the map. So you would go up to the very corner of the map and you would literally drive the car along the side of the road, just to make sure that the whole wall on both sides of the track is designed so you can't pass it. Because this is how the glitches in the Mario Kart speedruns get done. They find this little hole, they go through it, they're a different part of the map. That's what they're breaking. So that's one of the first things you would test. Then you'll check collision between different cars, and then you would check, and then you would just go through it forensically and kind of think, where could this go wrong? We need to make sure this works right, and then you identify the bugs and what have you. It's very laborious.
Yeah. I can only imagine on something the scale of Red Dead Redemption as well. Like
exactly
the man hours, they must just have tons of bodies in it. Just throw them at it and try and get this all worked out in a year.
Because this is why this is ultimately why I want to end up in games testing. It's not the notion of being able to just play a game for a job.
No.
I like the idea of speed running games, right, is predominantly based around finding the glitches, finding the bugs, and exploiting them. I want to be their boogeyman. I want to be the person that finds them before it goes. Like that's my dream. That's I know it sounds really sad, but that's something I really want to do. I love the problem solving aspect of it.
Yeah.
I love the kind of, you've got to think through everything so forensically.
Yeah.
It's just like,
does it get quite technical though with the stuff you do?
There's not so much I can say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets quite technical. It's technical about quite basic things.
Okay.
Sometimes.
So it's going into the inertia and sort of,
and there's
getting really in there and digging it up.
Pretty much. But with testing, there's like, especially software testing, there's a notion that we're meant to be separate from the developers, in that we should know how things are meant to work, as in how they're meant to work for the user, not how they're meant to work, as in, like, I shouldn't know exactly what the code is. I should just know how it's meant to work.
Okay.
So there's kind of a separation of the two. So there's a limit to how technical we really should get. But every now and again, you kind of need to look behind the curtain.
Have a look at Oz.
I love it.
One thing I want to talk about as well is this week people have lost their collective minds over this goat being hunted in the island of Scotland. Have you seen this?
Oh, of course, the golden goat.
Yeah. Golden goat.
Golden goat. I have heard of this, yeah.
And I don't know who was that posted these images of I think it's a couple or something. I don't think they're from Scotland.
No,
but
it's a Twitter personality that's known for posting pictures of
them headlocking goats and whatever, but people just lost their absolute shit
and
over this.
So it was legal, and the government, the local government, and whoever's responsible for those animals knew, but the gamekeeper knew about it, and she paid the money.
I heard there was a sheep involved as well, though. Like that was one of the animals that they shot.
Okay, was it endangered or something?
I think it was just sometimes sheep get out and go feral, and then that's the chance for people to come in and shoot them.
Yep.
Okay.
And they can charge, but that's just a regular sheep. It's not something that's.
So what you mean is it's completely legal?
Oh no, totally.
Yeah. So I've no problem with that.
The goat thing that I don't understand is, I don't agree with it, but I can see why people would kill a giraffe or kill a lion or a rhino.
Okay.
Those are big animals that could easily trample you or get away.
Yeah.
There's loads of goats.
There's
a lot of goats. It doesn't seem as hard or as difficult or as
those are
much of a
wild
challenge.
goats though, and they're pretty fucking insane. Have you seen goats that go up the side of fucking mountains? Goats are pretty crazy. They're not just normal farm goats, but regardless of how hard they are to kill or whatever, if it's something they're shooting and they're taking the food, they supposedly they donated the meat to food banks as well, and they ate some of it. I don't see any problem with that. Maybe not posting a picture of it is the best thing to do, but then if you're a Twitter personality, that's how you're making your bread and butter as well.
And it's freedom of speech, not freedom to be heard. You don't have to. No one's asking you to go and look at that fucking picture. People don't like hunting, and that's perfectly okay.
And I'm
but
so
you're not
surprised
hunting.
by how many of my friends were losing their shit over it in Scotland, and I think it's something that they're not faced with that often. Is hunting and animals, because there's barely anything to hunt in Scotland, and it's usually sort of farmed in a way that, you know, you get a group of deer together, you get a group of pheasant together, and then you go and get them shot. Like they're made, bred, and produced to be purely to be shot. These animals, you know, they make money, but it's only to conserve their own interests.
Am I thinking that you grew up as a country boy?
Oh yes, I did.
I think it's.
I mean, I've shot for years.
What's part of someone's normal life is a big part of it. So I grew up in a fishing town. I didn't grow up in a family that was involved in fishing or involved in the farming industry or anything like that. I know people hunt round about my area in Angus. It's not something that I grew up with. So I've got a bit of friction there when I'm. Friction's maybe not the right word, but I've got a
Fishing or fruition?
Friction.
Oh, friction.
Yeah.
Frisson.
Yeah.
Poisson.
Friction. There's a bit of friction in my brain when I think about hunting for sport or hunting, not just for sport, but as a means to clear the land. You know, population control, that sort of thing.
I don't think it's good. I think it's when it's hunting for when you're trying to get the meat. That's the main objective for me. If I want, like, I would eat more meat if I hunted it. You know, it's just a good thing to do that and be faced with what you're actually killing. You know, there's a lot of people who just have got it so twisted and don't have an idea or any understanding of where their food comes from, especially with farm industry and cows, and the dairy industry is just horrendous. But those guys still eat those things, still drink those fucking drink the milk as well, or the milk Kool-Aid,
and it messes with their programming. It gets them kind of.
There is a huge.
You know how many animals are slaughtered in the UK every single year due to farming
in
factory
farms
and closed off. Like, you're not allowed to even have any cameras in there.
Not to butt.
You're not allowed to have the journalists in there looking in and seeing what's going on, and nothing. So it's just totally closed off, and these animals are getting killed en masse every single day. But that's not something. But when it's one goat that's on Twitter, and I don't know, and it was all done legally. You know, it was not something that was done against the Constitution or anything like that. Not that we have one, but it's a tough one to think about.
No, I'm okay with it. And I understand why people get wound up about it, but I don't respect that opinion. I don't respect that position. If they're vegan or vegetarian, and you know, even then, there's kind of ways to argue that, you know, their impact on it, as much death occurs in vegan food and vegetarian food. I just feel as the whole thing's a non-issue. I think it's a big thing because it was a pretty lady on Twitter. People get worried about more people. People associate promoting that kind of thing with, you know, promoting killing animals, and it's not what it's about. It's pro hunting.
To me, the sport side of it is something that you shouldn't encourage.
Well, when you say sport, what do you mean?
Like trophy hunting.
Trophies,
Trophy hunting, I agree with. Because that is kind of the ultimate kind of capitalistic kind of, especially back to Louis Theroux documentary. You know, Africa is fucked.
Everything's fucked.
Everything is fucked.
But it feels, if you're getting enjoyment out of killing something, obviously you're going to have an adrenaline rush when you're faced with an animal, and that can be addictive. But the actual enjoyment of going out somewhere to capture a trophy of an animal that you would never come across in the wild ever. When there's local people there that you can give them the tools to do these things to get rid of something that's a problem, if it is. The sport aspect of it is just, I don't trust someone that would do that. You know, say you saw someone in your backyard like belting the fuck out of a dog, their dog. Would you trust that person?
No.
Yeah, you're right. You wouldn't.
But the whole point of hunt, because I've the whole point in hunting is a quick, clean kill. It's a lung burster right to both the lungs, and then that's it. That's
of course,
There's a deliberate avoidance of suffering on the animal's part.
That's where the pride is.
Yeah. But a guy whipping his dog, that's deliberately causing harm. That's cruel. There is an element of cruelty, I suppose, killing an animal for meat or for a trophy, and I suppose a greater amount of cruelty. But they're very different. I think hunters have a lot more respect for animals than.
Well, they have to. They're right there in front of them.
The majority of people that aren't against hunting.
That's something that I was trying to get to there. I'm completely separated from the natural world
Mm.
for the most part because I'm a city boy.
But you're not, because you're human, and we're all part of the
Yeah. So
sphere.
in my head, my food and where it comes from are separated. They're separate
Yeah.
topics. Whereas for yourself, if you grew up shooting,
Mm.
they are the same thing.
Yeah.
That's where food comes from.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So there's that point. It's separated. So people see this dead goat and they go,
Mm.
why the fuck have you killed a goat?
Yeah.
They don't realise that, well, the goat is, like, for example, it's wild or it's causing trouble to other aspects of human life, or like for population control,
Yeah.
or for the meat,
Yeah.
just for eating. And they've given the meat to places. Strange link.
Yeah.
We were watching Hannibal the other day, and in the first season, one of the guys that dies right at the start, spoiler if you've never watched Hannibal,
Don't.
he's a hunter, and he tells his daughter that you've got to use every part of the animal to honor it.
Yeah.
There's no point in killing it if you don't use everything. So he'd take the bones, make glue or
Yeah.
putty out the bones, use the meat. The antlers would be used for things, tools, whatever. Yeah, I totally get that. But I think a lot of the outrage is because people have separated themselves from
That.
the
Mm.
natural
Yeah.
world.
Totally.
Totally.
And hunting's quite an all-encompassing term. I mean, with hunting, you've got subsistence hunting, so for food, people who need to hunt to live.
Mm.
You've got fox hunting, which I don't think anyone rationally could agree with.
Not on a horseback with
Yeah.
like 30 dogs.
Like, I don't like the police using horses and dogs. I
No.
remember using fucking horses and dogs to chase down a fox. You know, what I
No.
mean? As much as they are pests and
Mm.
you know, kill a lot of chickens, and
Mm.
you know, obviously there was a story in the news about 5-10 years ago about a fox attacking a kid in a city, inner
Oh,
city.
yeah.
Because inner city foxes are a thing now. I live
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
south side of Glasgow, and I'd see some fucking huge foxes. You know, so it is totally a thing. But yeah, I think hunting's such an all-encompassing term.
Mm.
To say I don't like hunting
Yeah.
kind of doesn't give it the respect it deserves.
Or you don't
Um,
understand
yeah.
fully what it means. Yeah.
And but people naturally will think, well, being anti-hunting kind of feels like the kind of thing I should be.
Yeah, it's like
I'm gonna be anti-hunting.
Yeah.
most people on
yeah.
the left would probably say, you know, it shouldn't be around or whatever, and that feels like the right thing to jump towards. But
So
yeah, it's not.
it's this way of thinking that kind of changed my political kind of view. That what I just said there. There was I can't remember what it was, but there was definitely a moment. I remember sitting waiting for the train for work one morning, and I was thinking, I wonder what we think about this. I wonder what we think. What do I think about this? You know. So I think
Have you been to see Venom or something? Is that right?
No.
What do we think about this?
I don't know. I've heard it's terrible from so many people. I
What, the
don't know.
movie?
Yeah.
It's great. It's really good. Have you
Really?
seen it?
No, I've not. I want to.
It's good.
Doubt.
No, I went. The CGI is not great.
Okay.
I said that from the start. You know, that's what kind of put me out of it slightly.
Mm.
It's like, have you seen I, Tonya?
No.
It's the movie about, you know, the woman, the ice skater who hit the
Oh,
other.
of course,
yeah,
yeah.
And it's the girl from.
Oh yeah, it's Margot Robbie.
She plays Tonya. And it's an amazing
Mm.
movie. Fucking, it's a independent movie,
Yeah.
but phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the scenes where she's skating on the ice and she's doing the twirling. They've CGI'd her face onto someone that can skate, and it's fucking terrible.
Oh really?
It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's
Is it
so
like the fucking-
bad.
Is it like the John Cena? Are you sure about that?
It's exactly like that. It's like, it's not even the same skin color as the girl that she's supposed to put on. And every time she spins round, she's got this glacial smile on her face. So it's like, you wouldn't be doing that if you were in that much zero, you know, G-force in a spin.
Yeah,
It's terrible, but that almost took me out of the movie. But the movie's fucking awesome, apart from those bits.
So, because I know quite a lot about that case in real life.
Mm.
So in the movie, do they? Spoiler alert, obviously. Did they say that it was actually the her
guy.
opponent?
Yeah,
Because I thought it was like
it was her boyfriend.
their boyfriend and an accomplice had said we're going to
Yeah.
do this, and she said not to, and then they did
Yeah.
it anyway. Was that not how?
That's it's a really good movie because it has a very unique sense of humor.
Mhm.
Like, there is humor in it, which
Mhm.
you wouldn't think when it comes to a story about a woman's, you know, her Olympic dreams almost being dashed by
Yeah.
someone smacking her in the side of the leg with a baton. A gangster, nonetheless,
a
somewhat.
lead pipe or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like they showed it as like the extendable batons the
Yeah.
police have in the movie. I don't know if that was what it is.
Horrible, man.
I thought it was a pipe as well,
Yeah.
But it's
yeah.
hilarious. But they could change it for the
Mm.
movie's
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah.
It's got like very unique sense of humor. And yeah, watch it and maybe fast forward the bits where she's on the ice.
Oh, laugh.
But the thing that the woman could do, I think it's the triple axle.
Triple axel.
Oh, the
Yeah. So it's 3.5 spins.
Salchow. I know that's one as well.
Triple axles like 3.5 spins, and only she was the second woman ever on ice skates that could do this, and she's only the second of 8 in the world up until this point. So she was the only person that could do it. So even when they had the body double doing these things on the ice, there was no one else that could do it. So they had to just digitalize her doing the triple axle and a half because there was no one else in the world that could do it.
She's got Tony Hawk.
Just pressing button bashing. 900
left,
on the
right
ground.
circle.
On the ground.
3.5, and then she'd go away and grind on the right of the side of the rink.
So keeping it themed with sports, did you see this week Roman Reigns, the WWE wrestler, came out and said that he's been dealing with leukemia for the last 11 years of his career.
11 years? I didn't know it was that long.
Supposedly.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was like I think he's Universal Champion. I didn't even know that was a belt anymore because I loved WWE like when I was maybe 13. I don't think they had that belt at that point.
No.
So he came out, and one of the big things with wrestling that you're never ever supposed to do is drop character. And he did it in the ring when he was announcing to everyone that his name was Joe, and he's just a character, and he's been dealing with leukemia. And I think he got
So that's called breaking kayfabe. That's
kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
Is that anything to do with North Korean bands or South Korean bands?
No, is that
kayfabe?
Is that a Korean band name?
K-pop.
I'm John.
K-pop.
I'm
Oh no, sorry. Oh,
It's also different to breaking KP.
there we go. Yeah.
That will never happen.
Which is your
I will break you.
Which is your Breaking Benjamin tribute band. Kayfabe's an old Carney expression. I think it means the story of the show. Like I think a leaf would be a good way. A leaf would be a good way of.
I remember whose book was it? Was it Mick Foley's book? Yeah, that gave a lot of people insight into the business because there was like the face and the heel and all that. The stuff that no one had really heard of before, and it was all backstage terms that they were using to sort of describe what was going on.
Like pro wrestling is very much my misspent youth. Kind of, some people
doing or watching.
I wish that was the former.
Okay.
11-year-old me would be very disappointed that I'm not currently a pro wrestler at this point.
You have the tash of a pro wrestler.
Apparently, it's not the
that you
physical
keep
acumen. Exactly. I know. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I keep.
You stroke it like you are the Universal Champion.
A little bit.
Of bare knuckle boxing.
Exactly. Bare knuckle boxing, that's a thing now, isn't
That's
it?
actually coming back.
I watched the Vice documentary with Beth Rollins in it.
They think it's never going to happen, but they want it to be as good up there as MMA, because it's an spectacle sport, people might think, but it's not got the same. It's not got the same appeal as something that's sort of unlimited in the way MMA is. Like bare knuckles, not really got that.
But it's a good spectacle.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
It's nice to see because there is a.
And they're legitimizing it. That's the thing. They're trying to make it as legit as possible. Sorry.
No. I was about to say exactly what you said. They've gone from, barns and smokers. It's big in the traveling community. Yeah. But then they moved to televising it in barns, and now they're moving it to putting it into I think it's a kind of like Yama pit fighting kind of an idea.
Yeah. Supposedly there's going to be one in there too, because
really
there's a guy from Dundee fighting on it. Mark Navarro's fighting. Yeah, he's a K1 champion, like European K1 champion.
Yeah, Mark's solid.
Oh yeah, like he'll pretty much walk through anything to get to what he's fighting for, and he's fighting in the O2 arena, is it? Some part of it with a bare knuckle boxing.
I've been following him on Instagram, watching his training.
He's hilarious.
He's incredible, and all of his stories. There's always, on Instagram, you've got the bar for how long the story is.
Yeah,
his bars are tiny because it's just so much he does in the day. So you'll film him training and him training other people. But you've seen him training for bare knuckles, so he'll start with the big gloves, go down in gloves, go down in gloves, and now he's training with the hand wraps because it's not bare knuckle, it's hand wrap. But now he's training with the hand wraps, and you can see it would be so easy to hurt your hands. Yeah. So easy, ridiculous.
But here's something. When I was thinking about coming on, I was thinking this is something I was.
You didn't even know you were coming on the podcast.
Well, no, I had a whole day. So, maybe I subconsciously I did. But do you guys ever find that you have an upper limit for violence as pertains to combat sports?
It's a good question.
I definitely do. Lethway is my kind of my.
What is that?
It's like the Burmese.
The fight.
Yeah.
Knife. Is it the knife fight?
No. It's like the Burmese equivalent to Muay Thai.
Okay.
It's similar rules. Kieran's a lot more Muay Thai, knows a lot more Muay Thai than I do, but it's basically first of all, headbutts are legal.
Oh, I've seen this actually. Yeah.
No gloves.
Looks good.
It's hand wraps. It's no weight divisions.
Okay. Yeah.
If you get knocked out, you have 2 minutes to recover, and if you have recovered, you start up again.
That's crazy.
It's fucking crazy.
There's also no decisions. If it goes the full 5 rounds, it's a draw.
Right, that's
you
good.
You can win by KO or stoppage or retiral.
I've seen the headbutts because I saw some YouTube videos and they were talking about the usefulness of headbutts and would it be good to bring that back to MMA,
especially with the plum.
You know, a lot of people think about headbutts, and you'll have to watch some Lethway afterwards if you've never seen it before. People talk about headbutts, and they think about the proper Glasgow kiss. You know, right in the chin or whatever, in the nose. No, like you're talking about with the plum clinch. Where the headbutts are really useful is inside elbow range. Yeah. So as soon as you get inside elbow range, you have to create a little bit of space to pop that elbow in, which actually damages you as well because you're giving the opponent that space as well. And if you lean back too much, you're opening different channels. When you're inside elbow range, you'll be bringing the corner of your head up to his cheek or his forehead. Yeah. So you're looking for cuts. Yeah. Yeah. Or if the other person gives you too much space, then you do go for the chin. But that's where the headbutts are.
And that's my limit.
Really?
Like, I thought I'd be okay with it. I actually Googled, YouTubed the Lethway headbutt knockout. That was that. It's just too much. It's that whole too simple, too effective kind of notion.
Have you watched any of the old Brazilian MMA stuff? There's a lot of headbutts in that.
Yeah, that's one thing. Guy Mesger, Wanderlei Silva was one of my favourite fights. I watched that fight quite a lot, and there's
Chuck Liddell's got a lot of old fights down there as well. Amazing.
And like he's got them in half guard.
Yeah, headbutting them.
But it just looks too much for me. Bare knuckle I'm okay with because there are because this is the thing with bare knuckle, there are accommodations you need to make. You can't punch as hard.
Can't wing.
You can't wing
it.
Your technique's got to be on point. You've got to focus more on straight punches and punches to the body. There's an adjustment to make there. If you use the right part of your head, you can stooky someone as hard as you fucking want.
There's a famous line from I think it was Gladiator. Have you seen that boxing one? It's called The Gladiator, and it's basically this. No, it's an up. I'm not sure actually. It's an up and coming boxer, and there's this guy who runs the underground boxing scene, and he's fighting against this old boxer guy that used to be amazing, and he's the up and coming pup, and he punches the old guy, and he headbutts his hand. He's like, the forehead, the hardest part of the body, and he breaks the guy's hand.
I've heard of this. There's who's the really old boxer wrote a book, and he said something about that. About using your head as a defense. You put your head down, the guy's going to punch you in the head and break his hand. Yeah.
Well,
there was something I used to do on the bag. It was a bit experimental, but you know how you do your Superman jab? I would do it with my head, like do a Superman, but do the kick with the leg and then lead in with my head, and it was quite effective.
It would be.
Well, that's Evander Holyfield, almost his whole boxing career. It's called something like a nodder or a nodder. Yeah, it's like he kind of
lead in with the head.
That's why Tyson bit him.
Yeah,
it wasn't because he was
crazy.
Him. Oh yeah, the cocaine had a lot to do with it. Okay.
The STDs, the burning his skin and his temperature, obviously.
I was thinking of someone else there. I was about to say, did he not say that? He said you put your ear in my mouth or something.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't that. It was Jason Knight, the UFC fighter.
Yeah.
He bit. I can't remember who it was. He bit the guy's finger multiple times,
wow.
And afterwards he was like, "You're gonna, if he's trying to fish hook me, I'm gonna bite him. Don't put your fingers in my mouth. You won't get bitten." Which is fair enough.
There's a guy in Tough that did that as well.
Yeah,
a big fucking huge. What's his name?
Oh,
the guy,
yeah.
The guy that super kick.
Because he did it with it had his had the mark of his gum shield on the side as well.
The known he's a known dickhead. Mike Pyle, not the guy with the mullet. Mike Kyle. He I remember there's a fight of him in WC and he soccer kicked a guy and then he went after him right after. There's that whole thing where the referee was trying to pull him off.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Those ones. He's that guy.
Someone else that was bitten recently, not recently, but someone else that was bitten was Jojo Calderwood.
Yeah.
When she was fighting for Super Fight League, I think it.
Scotland's own.
I might be wrong in the opponent. I think it was Yana Kunitskaya. It might have been someone else, but it was a Russian or a Polish girl. She was biting her and eye gouging her and stuff like that repeatedly. And I was watching it thinking, why is the referee not doing something? But she won the fight in the end. So Scott can't deal with headbutts, but he will deal with knees to the head on the ground.
Not universally.
That's my line.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's good.
So
The knees. I'm good with the headbutts and the knees to the head on the ground. Yeah.
Your limits are
weird.
where are they?
I'm not sure.
Stomps?
Stomps are a bit weird.
Yeah.
I think to someone who's on the floor, and then stomping on them, I guess. But it depends. Like, do you remember? Was it who used to do this? They used to do the stomp and axe kick. GSP. I think he used to do that.
That's legal to the stomach.
And it was legal. You know, you meaning just like stomps to the head?
Yeah, stomps. I don't like stomps.
Soccer kicks to the head.
Soccer kicks, I go back and forth with.
I think that might be my line, is the soccer kicks on the ground to the head.
I think people don't. I think they're an effective tool to the body. People don't use them because they're worried about going getting the head. If there was a way to rule around that, but that's an ideal situation.
Yeah.
You sent me something during the last week.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was from Tahachi or it was from Road FC or One FC.
I think it was Road.
It was a guy doing basically a knee drop.
Right.
Jumped up, knee dropped on the guy twice, and then the referee starts the fight. That's a stomp.
Yeah.
I'll clarify that. Right? But knees, I feel as though if you're on your knees, you should be able to get kneed.
Yeah.
Like there's that rule around, 3 points of contact. It has to be. That's too much to ask for the referee.
Exactly.
And it's too much of it's not simple, but it's effective. So I think that's why knees on the ground should be legal.
Yeah.
As far as knees to the crown of the head, the top of the head, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the back of the head, I'm not okay with. But like up kicks, axe kicks from your back, I don't see the problem with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I always get it mixed up. It was either Masasi who knocked out Jacare or Jacare and knocked out Masasi.
Masasi knocked out Jacare with the up kick.
That was it, yeah.
In Dream, yeah.
Like, I don't think you should have to worry about where your opponent's knees are if you're going for up kicks, because it's effective, but it's not a soccer kick. It's again, there's a negative to being there.
Of course.
What did you guys make of the Conor fouling in the Khabib match?
Oh, complete. Like, there's a few of them. So many dirty things.
Yeah.
Like, you need him when Khabib was on top and control, and just need him in the face. But
so did you feel that was because Herb Dean's come out and said, "This is why I officiated it that way."
yeah.
But do you guys think that was right? How that officiated it?
I mean, what was his explanation for it?
Well, he said basically because stopping the fight would have been to Khabib's detriment, he wouldn't stop the fight. His intention was to speak to Conor in between the rounds when he tapped, speak to him and say,
I think that's fair, because he didn't do. He only done it once.
No, he did a couple of times.
And it wasn't. And Khabib was in a controlling position.
Knee on the head. He had his feet in the cage, his fingers in the cage.
Fingers on his gloves.
Blocking
his gloves.
Blocking the Kimura by grabbing Khabib's
the shorts. Yeah.
So I think Herb Dean was pretty fair in that regard.
Yeah.
I just wonder what you guys thought.
That sounds like the same rule in football where you're playing advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get fouled, but you're attacking. Let's just let them attack instead of stopping the play.
Makes sense.
And in rugby, it's quite common for them just to go.
Do we not have fights on tonight actually as well?
We do. It's the Moncton card. I mentioned it earlier.
Oh yeah, and so obviously Stevie Ray, one of Scotland's own, is fighting tonight.
Jerking the curtain.
Jerking the curtain.
Literally jerking the curtain.
Is he first on or is he headlining the Fight Pass prelims?
He's first on.
First on.
Yeah.
Oh.
And who is it? I'm not followed this one.
I can't remember his opponent.
Jesse Araya.
Is that it?
Is that his name? I think so.
Okay.
I was more focused on the Court McGee fight. I'm a huge Court McGee fan. I'm really sad to hear he hasn't fought in a while.
Yeah.
He's like shoulder injury or something.
Yeah.
He's an interesting life story. He's like Matt Brown, kind of addicted to heroin, overdosed.
Aren't we all?
Came back. Yeah. A little bit of smack.
It's a comic story, yeah.
A little bit of smack.
I can't remember who's on the card off the top of my head, but I looked at the card when I was on the train coming through, and you'd said before it's surprisingly strong. I thought, right, okay, Scott, you're super into guys that no one's heard of, but it is actually a really good card.
Yeah.
Who is it they've got fighting? Is it Calvin Qatar's fighting?
Yeah, I can't remember.
He's fighting Chris Fishgold from the UK.
Fishgold.
I think it's Fishgold from the UK.
Yeah.
And that's a strange fight to give some guy who doesn't have a Wikipedia page, because Calvin Qatar is very, very talented.
Great top control.
Yeah. He's very strong and very aggressive. So it'll be good to see how Fishgold does there as well.
And Artem's fighting Michael Johnson.
Oh,
which is
yeah.
good, because Michael Johnson needs a win, so that's good.
It's not going to happen.
Did you see the thing about him missing weight?
Oh yeah,
Johnson
like I
missing
saw
weight?
you sent me a tweet, was it? And it
Yeah.
was talking about how Michael Johnson was a pound over. Is that what it was? The championship weight.
And they wouldn't let him weigh in again, so he lost 20% of his purse.
Oh.
But
So-
Artem,
But
Yeah.
Artem, being the legend that he was saying that he can keep the money.
Yeah.
He respects him for coming in 2 weeks.
Thanks for
behind.
filling in. I'll give you the money back, sort of thing, which is nice. I don't know how that fight goes down. I mean, I think Michael Johnson wins it,
Yeah.
but
ekes out by decision.
Artem's
Uh,
tough.
Artem is tough.
He's tough.
He's
but,
tough.
yeah,
He's the GOAT. So
but he can't hit
Is
you.
he going to get shot?
on that note, I think we're just about done. Where can people find you guys at, respectively or together?
Metal Gear Smiffy on most
Okay.
platforms.
And I'm the Kieran everywhere. Scott and I are also working on our own podcast.
Mm.
I've got my own podcast, MMA High Five. You said at the start we are working on our own podcast, Jabbin with Kieran and Scott, not with Jimmy Savile. Everything that we do, Scott and I, everything we do together, you can find on shootingtheshit.co.uk.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that I do, audio, I'm just sticking up there so you can find it easy.
And I have my own solo podcast incoming. It's just
Oh,
taking a little while.
Solo. Going
together.
Han Solo.
A little
Red and dirty.
Well,
Love it.
I'll wait for that. Anyway,
That'll
guys,
2019.
check them out and can't wait to listen to your new solo
Thank you very much.
podcast.
Thank you for having
And
us.
thanks, guys, for listening and see you next week.
Cheers.